What is up? It's Tommy Mack here. I've got my one of my best friends growing up in Sumter, South Carolina, Dalzell, South Carolina. I got Eddie Lloyd on the line. Flex Lloyd, how you doing, man?
What's going on, man? Yeah, man. I'm good. How you?
I'm good. Let me turn you up a little bit. Hold on. Let me bring you up here. All right. So Eddie, you now live in
The United Kingdom,
yes.
Brit, England.
So having grown up in Sumter, South Carolina, how is it different there?
I mean, it just depends on. I mean, culturally, it's a completely different world. It depends on your like what you mean. That's a very broad question because everything's different. A lot less violence. There's no guns. On this side, not for the general public. Now that poses problems as well, but I mean, as far as that aspect of it, the food is different. The food is a big transition for me. You know what I mean? Like the food is different, the seasonings and different things like that, the
What do you mean
brands.
by that?
Um, it's there's a soul to our cooking in the states.
Down south?
There's That's man from the side. I mean, I've eaten all over, but just on American Southern food is just different altogether from what they got over here. They'll have places that say American fried Southern fried chicken on the front, and it don't be American Southern fried chicken. McDonald's, certain things taste different. They don't allow certain products that we sell to even get sold in the market. So the sugar contents they don't allow certain things with major sugar content. So even the sodas taste different.
I hear
So it's
that.
a you know what I mean.
And I uh I went there. I had never left the US until my wife took me over on a nice trip. We went obviously we saw you out in London.
Yes, sir.
Um we went to Scotland, Ireland. Um it was we also went to, I got to be honest, I did not like Paris. I didn't like Paris. I feel like a lot of people in Paris, they look down on the tourists. They look down on people that couldn't speak
Mm.
French. And my wife, fortunately, she speaks. I mean, her first language is Spanish because she she grew up in Mexico. So a lot of the words, a lot of, I mean, with the Spanish language,
Yeah.
um, or the language, there is a whole category of languages that you can pretty much understand anything anyone was trying to say within these Latin languages,
Hmm.
as opposed to the English language. It's very tough to learn. There are so many exceptions. There are so many rules. There are so many, so
The
anyway.
lowest form of Latin is considered polyglot, but yeah, go ahead. Go
But
ahead.
the first place we went was, and this is a crazy story. We went to Paris, and she told me about the gypsies, and and I was like, "What gypsies? We like this is a fairy tale. It's crazy." No, it's not. Like literally, someone will come up to you and start talking to you and pull your heartstrings. Meanwhile, someone else is behind you, ready to grab what you've got. And I didn't get that. I didn't understand what was happening, and my wife, thank God, was just like, "Keep your eyes open, watch out, because gypsies they're a real thing." And I'm not putting down the gypsy culture. I'm just saying gypsies do exist, and that threw me off. I didn't think I just thought that was a made up thing. But living in London, um, gypsies stole one of our friends' purses, took her passport, everything. while we were there, and I think I told you about that.
Yeah.
So, what is your experience with gypsies? Just out of curiosity, have you experienced gypsies, or was that just
Um,
a thing
well,
for
it
tourists?
it depends on the difference because there's a difference between a gypsy and a traveler in the UK. It's I think they're the most they're the most clever individuals on the planet as far as their commitment to society. They live in a they live free. They're not subject to a lot of the same scrutiny that we are because they're a collective. They're prepared to band together at any moment, at any time, and they're travelers. They're traveling with their home
The
caravans, moving from place to place and things like that. But
the
um,
gypsies.
yeah, but it depends because it depends on if you're talking about gypsies or travelers. Because gypsies, there's a gypsy culture. Talking about see, it goes deep. It goes into it just depends on like over here. It's not just gypsies. You get what I'm saying? Because it just
I
depends
do.
on what type of gypsies you're talking about. Um, but it's travelers. When I hear gypsy, I think of travelers. You're talking about your Irish, your Scottish, old generation that decided that they weren't going to participate in this government game, in this economic game. So they
Mm.
decided to live free off the land and travel and move within the confines, basically sovereign citizens,
Okay.
but of the European persuasion, and we would consider them to be gypsies. But in any city that you go in, whether it's gypsies, there's an underbelly and there's a culture of plot and set up the visitor. Um, Robbing tourists has less consequence than robbing locals. You get what I'm saying? Because the long term effects, I don't have to ever see you again. So these populated areas of people who have brought their passports and their money and all these different things are going to be targeted. And now the poverty stricken people of whatever area you're in are going to be considered the low lives of the strays, and they're going to be given a title and a name. So the gypsies are basically the poor people, and hungry people plot. You know what I mean? Like hungry people plot and scheme. So it's one of those things, or they work. But if plotting and scheming is more fruitful than working, they're gonna plot and scheme. I guess it's a dog eat dog when you get hungry. You know what I mean?
So
So
so do you feel like, the gypsies are do you feel like they don't have the same opportunities in, for example, in London?
yeah. So their babies aren't born in hospitals. They don't prescribe to NHS numbers, like social security numbers. They don't, you know what I mean? They don't prescribe to that system in the same way that everybody else over here does. So yes, they have their limitations and what they're capable of doing within society. So robbing and stealing is a portion of it. You get what I'm saying? For the network and the survival, the key element
Mm.
is that yeah, that's that they're outside of the confines of the society and still able, like I said, sovereign citizens. No, so that's going to limit their ability to make commerce and all these different things. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's a funny one.
What Eddie, what is your I mean, in
Yes is
LA,
the answer to your question, though. Yes is the answer to your question.
to
Sorry.
which question to which question?
Do I think that they have less opportunities? Yes.
Okay. All right. Now in LA, for example, I remember 2, 3 years ago driving, over to Hollywood, and
Yeah.
there's a particular route you take. You go, down you know, the 134, down the 2 south, you get off, you go down, you hop onto the 101, and there's a bridge right there, where we used to call it Tent City, right?
Hmm.
And it was, I mean, it was a whole thing. Tent City. There were all these tents under this bridge. And now it's crazy, man, because my wife and I, we drove. I mean, and this shouldn't come as a surprise, but we drove through there last week, and Tent City just looked like most other parts of Metro LA. Tents everywhere, dude. Tents everywhere. Everywhere. Downtown by Union Station. I mean, under every overpass, and it makes sense because people don't want to get rained on. Not that it rains a lot here, but if it does, they want to be protected, obviously,
from the sun as well.
from the sun as well. Yeah. But it's amazing that it's it's amazing that this is supposedly right the US, and you grew up here and you have a different perspective now, but it's amazing that right now the US is we consider ourselves the free country, the greatest country in the world. Like it's getting tougher to for people
to buy the narrative.
it's getting tougher to for people to back that up. I mean, honestly, dude. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was born on Air Force Base, as you know. Grew up in Sumter, South Carolina. Loved all the amenities around the Air Force Base. But man, you know, and I look back and there are a lot of great things about our town, a lot of amazing things about our town, and we'll get to those. We'll get to those aspects because the interracial situations that went down as you and I grew up, a lot of amazing things.
Yeah, we could start with the broad scope though, and then break it down and get on the inside.
By the way, I just officially brought us into Super Timing Land.
Oh, okay. So we
see
can
that layout now. Now we're hanging out. We got some grass. We got some sky. We're chilling. We got a hat up top. Good. But the whole thing, man, about these people like that are born into situations where they can't choose. They can't be like, oh yeah, I would like to do this. I would like no. You've got one path. Here's your path. Poverty, right? Now, I'm not saying that you can't pull yourself out of poverty. What I'm saying is so many people are on the other side of the spectrum, and their path is, well, I don't want to go into poverty, so I'm just going to follow along with my parents' thing. You got this and you got that. Why is it this and that? Because there's so much in between. I think you and I can provide some insight into the in between because I grew up with my mom raised us. I had a stepdad and I had a couple stepdads. I had many stepdads. Eddie, did you? I don't recall if your parents were together the whole time or what was your situation? I'm sorry.
My parents were together until I was about 13, 14. Like Sumter, South Carolina in the military. That was a strong place to be. If you look at the divorce records at certain bases in the staying in relationships, they're very, very high in certain places. And Sumter happened to be one of them. And I fell a victim to that once shortly after when we moved out to 5, pretty much.
Really
when
quick,
I moved
Eddie,
to Remember. Yeah.
really quick. You said Sumter was one of the highest divorce.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, during that time frame.
Wow.
If you look around us, like who was it? Ray Allen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the way his situation went. I don't know how close you were to that, but South Carolina and Sumter.
For those that don't know who Ray Allen is the number 1 3-point shooter in history in the NBA. I believe Steph Curry hasn't taken his record yet.
Yeah.
I don't think.
I'm not sure, but yeah, we grew up in the same environment. Ray, Talisha, Christy, his sisters, brothers. But yeah, if you were close to if you were community based, you would have seen that a lot of broken homes came out of the 5,000 area. A lot of energy. Like if I talked to a lot of the vets that were there, that I
Now
know,
now
like the
now,
kids.
really quick, um, Eddie, when you say the 5,000 area, the 4,000 area, can you explain that to people that are listening right now?
Oh
Because
yeah, I'm talking to you. I
you're
forget
talking
that
to me, I know
that there's anybody even watching. I'm
I know
completely.
what you mean. I know what you mean, but when you say the 5,000 area, the 4,000 area, that relates to, I believe, the addresses given to the
Yeah.
houses inside of the Basing area. So, do you wanna
Yes. It was.
give a quick background on that?
Yeah. It was based on the 5,000 area and the 4,000 area. It's based on how many children you had. So the families with three or more children, because they were bigger layouts, bigger houses. The 5,000 area had bigger homes, and the 4,000 area had slightly smaller homes. But these are your two bedrooms as opposed to your 3 and 4 bedrooms. And the 5,000 area was a class of base housing, and it was how we as kids separated our areas pretty much. And then there was the 4,000 area, and that was on the other side, basically closer. You had a little less children in your family, and the one child households used to live actually on Shawfield. And we
Well, and then pardon my interruption. On base, you had the officers.
yes, and people who only had one child. Occasionally, you'd get a somebody that was in like high ranking tech sergeants, master sergeants, and stuff like that with only one kid. Sometimes would live on base because we had friends over there that was just the one kid that lived, and their parents were officers. Because a lot of the officers' kids, you don't know them.
And
You never.
at the time, we could just freely hop over, go to the pool.
Mhm.
It wasn't like at the time we played golf. I wish we had because the golf over there was amazing, obviously. But
Yeah.
yet you had the lake with the peacocks.
Hmm.
You had, I mean, there were so many
Duck pond. We
duck
called it the duck
pond,
pond.
peacock pond. I
Yeah.
mean,
Lake. What was it? Lakefront Rec Center. Like it was community inside a community. We had three pools on
yeah,
on one Air Force base,
and
and
we
we had free access. We could go in and out as and when.
in and out, in and out. Now, now
Can't even
that's a
drive
whole
up
different
Frierson
story, man.
Road. Can't even drive up Frierson Road.
Which is where I lived,
Yeah,
at one point in my life,
all the way around.
right there, right? I live right there
Hmm.
in the flight path. A plane crashed. Do you recall that? Do you remember that time when the
Hmm.
plane crashed, in the field behind the house where I lived?
I don't remember.
Crazy
I,
stuff, man.
I was lost for a while back then. I was out on a limb somewhere, I'm sure.
Do you remember, okay, where you used to dump the trash, the old dirt road back there? It was called Old Frierson,
Yep, Old Frierson
and
Road.
it went
Yep.
around like that. That's where so many people learned to drive.
Yep.
So many people learned to drive there.
Isn't
Anyway,
that the road that took LaRon from us?
no,
Isn't
no,
doesn't oh, okay.
the road that took LaRon was over off, it was a road that was
441.
coming
It
into
comes off of
441.
441, but I think that's the back way. How else did they get over there? Like I don't know where that road connects to. I've never been
That
down
was
it.
coming off of, the name escapes me, but
Yeah.
it was coming off of Ryerson, connecting over to yes, it's actually near my aunt's house, but yes, that's correct. R.I.P. my man. Um, so many memories, so
Yeah,
many
man.
things that you and I could talk about that no one else would understand.
Yes, and I'm sorry. I keep walking. It's like we're FaceTiming. I gotta keep in my head that we have viewers and an audience.
Well, and if someone else is listening, I appreciate them being there. And if they
Yes,
are,
absolutely.
actually, hold on. Let me see here. Anna Hicks said she lived in the 5,000 area. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Anna, we appreciate you for hopping in there. Um, but we're not.
It's
We're
I know.
reminiscing a little bit.
Yeah.
But what we really want to do is talk about what's happening right now in the world. And
Ooh,
Eddie,
wee. Let's go.
it's it's a hard conversation.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I haven't. It's not really. It's not really a hard conversation.
okay. Talk to me.
It's only a hard conversation when you house bias. You know what I mean? Like for me, the dialogue, it's about time we have the conversation. The emotions. My thing is, it's hard. It's been so hard not to have the conversation that I feel like it's not hard to have the conversation. And I guess that's my perspective. I feel like we truly have to start paying attention and holding ourselves accountable. Um, and that's from an international perspective. This injustice to me, like I said, starts from an economic platform, um, and it bleeds itself on down. I feel like there is a lack of morality at the top. We were talking about the hungry people and the people at the bottom and the people treated different, but I think that our focus is there. But the individuals at the top don't put the people at the bottom in position to win. And I say that to say this, like from a whole standpoint, um, we have to look at, like, I guess the best way to say it is, if America is broke, if we look at the national deficit, we have to look at the morality involved in this situation. If 5 people, all of us multimillionaires, live in a house, and we're about to get evicted, but we made all our money in the house, but the house is broke, that makes no sense. You get what I'm saying? And we're looking at the little things, the racial discrimination, and these things that are to me smoke screens,
So
to take us away from the true focus. But I want to get into the racial discrimination and all that as well. But it's to me, I understand where racism came from, and it didn't start out as a color barrier. Racist was a race between the English and the Spanish for wealth. That's where the Mexican came from into the mainland Spaniard in the South, and that's when America, the North. That's what was established. But I can't for the life of me understand how in America we can truly look ourselves in the mirror and say that it is okay for an immigrant himself to build a wall to stop South Americans from getting into North America, when it's America, that whole landmass. You get what I'm saying? So those people are entitled to everything everybody else is entitled to. And I understand the economic situation, but that's the young boy I don't want to share my food type deal, because the morality in a person, how can somebody have $6 billion and not spend every day of their life trying to make the world better?
Billion with a B.
Yes. 6 billion with a B. 6 trillion with a T. How can you have that much money and inside of yourself not spend every day trying to make the world better?
And you could be talking about any number of people with the billion.
Yeah. And I'm not shooting directly, but it's a sense of morality. To me, that's inhuman. I couldn't sit in that seat and not be compassionate and break my neck every day. I got all the free time in the world and all the resources. But why are we not growing fruit trees in the cities? Why are we not creating self-sustaining societies? Because we're playing this capitalistic game, and capitalism is rooted in supremacy. You get what I'm saying? In order to put one above the other, that whole system is rooted in supremacy. And we're going to let these cats with these rings on sit back and run this game on us. And that's how I feel about it. And that's like from a racial standpoint, I don't care what anybody says about this killing. My issue with the killing is they had their hands in their pockets. Like Dave, yeah.
Really?
Okay.
And we'll get back to that. You said with the rings on. The rings on. What is that?
You have to understand that the individuals, 80% of the individuals to have run this country were in Masonic organizations. The places we're looking to stop tyranny is not directly where the problem is. We're not looking. They've got these institutions. Tommy, when I was 18 years old, 17, 16. If the big homie would have took me and showed me some legs, you get what I'm saying? And put some money in my pocket, put me in some wheels, I'd have killed for him. What you think they doing recruiting these kids fresh out of high school into these private groups and these private organizations? They had a plan, and the plan been on the move since Rome. And we're gonna ignore that there was never a plan. Like there's not an objective. We're gonna sit here and pretend that in the last 1,000 years that the loss of life of Black men to Europeans is not a direct war. If Europeans had lost that many men to anybody, it would be war. But my issue is, from a Black perspective, anybody can say what they want. It's not a Black issue. Black lives can matter all they want. This is a white house cleaning issue. My issue is white men for the last 1,000 years have only been policed by white men. So the things that have been gotten away with were gotten away with by other white men in the situation. Europe, this is a European overfill. America is a European overflow. And that's true without question.
Okay, can we look at that for a second? It's a European overflow.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, why is Europe so far ahead of what we're doing right now?
They're not ahead. The thing about Europe is they have these people under control. America, to me, is the last front line for freedom, true freedom. If we lose that, we lose it all. Where are the bankers from that are squeezing our country? Who runs the international banks? Who are these people?
So you're saying America is currently more free than Europe?
Absolutely. The only reason I say that is because if the system were to impose a curfew and lock these people down and come out with weapons, they have no line of defense but rocks, bullets in their numbers. If there was really a martial law infected here, there would be a problem. Now, the issue that we have over here, there's not a major black and white issue. But if there was a population of immigrants, which Brexit would explain, that were non-European, that were getting into Britain, they'd close the gates. That's the issue that we have in America, is that there's a population of people that is uncontrollable. You get what I'm saying? And our attempt is to populate this continent. You can't tell me I can't look at it as all accident. I can't look at it as all conquest because I've read too much history. I know what they were sitting back talking about when they were making exchanges. These are the individuals we talking about when they took the Bible and changed it. They've put so many different images in front of us as a people. They're social engineering at the highest level, and that's what we're missing on this level, because we want to talk about, you know what I mean?
Eddie, do you know how many people in the U.S. would listen to what you just said and be blown away because they feel like Europe has it together?
They have it under control. That's the key. It's not a brown threat over here, and the brown threat that's over here is getting handled by big homie USA. These banking systems and these structures. This is my thing.
Handled how?
Huh?
Handled how?
We going for the oil. Listen, we the muscle. We the muscle. Okay. If you look at it like this, you got the bank. You got the warriors. You get what I'm saying? You got all these aspects of war. You get what I'm saying? Now, if I create a banking system that is outside of government, then I can manipulate government without being held accountable. Now,
what banking system? Like when
Lincoln first
Bitcoin or
the Federal Reserve. Let's start with the Federal Reserve. Let's go there. When the Federal Reserve was
of government?
No, the Federal Reserve is a privately owned corporation, and this is what we have to understand. America is a corporation, and these are things that they're not feeding us and showing us.
Now, Eddie, really quick.
I'm trying to figure out how to say it all and not talk forever.
I feel like you and I are going to get into some stuff that a lot of people are not going to like tonight.
Oh yeah, I'm honest and open, but I can stand on grounds that I have no hatred, no hatred for anyone, or no bias in my heart. I have looked at the historical evidence, and I've looked at the facts. I'm not coming from a place of hate. I'm coming from a place of exchange and dialogue so that we can move forward. Because I don't. If the war is to be fought, let it be fought now. I do not want my boys to have to see this. If somebody must give their life, let it be me. If the war is going to be, let it be now. You know what I mean? Because I mean, it's time that we stop looking at African Americans as some type of citizen. We are prisoners of war. We are POWs. And if we were looked at in that perspective as we were kidnapped. According to the history and the doctrine that I'm digging up, and not everybody was kidnapped. This is why ignorance was 100 years of blank. We got to remove the history and everything they remember. The books, anything that they was finding from them people that was there already to say that somebody else has a tie to that land is us. But you can't tell me that you got that these people got the land for free. 400 years of free labor, and 100 years later, the country is broke. There's wickedness going on. That's a robbery.
But Eddie, you have to realize, and we have to be extremely clear with this. I think I feel like it's owed to you, to me, to anyone listening. I wasn't robbed. You weren't robbed. However, your family may have a different history than my family. Now, I'm not saying I'm not saying that we had a better history or you had a better history. The histories are what they are. Now, let me proceed in saying that chances are your family's history, you probably had a much harder time getting to where you got as a family. Right?
Absolutely.
Now I know you, I know your family, I know you guys had your land, your properties in Sumter. My family, we owned, well, there were a couple of times where we owned some land, and then there was some inner fighting with family, and then there was land lost, and but that's all. That has nothing to do with laws. That was just inner fighting, right? Mm-hmm. So a lot of people try to, in fact, I'm just going to come out and say it. A lot of white people say, well, I grew up poor. I don't have privilege.
I know. And that's those are the ones that should be riding with us, because it's not really about color. It's about the economic indifference. But
don't let it off that easily. Like,
I'm not done.
Come on, man. You're talking to me. You're not talking to somebody you don't know.
Yeah, I'm not done.
A lot of people like, yo, I grew up poor. I'm white.
Mm-hmm. I'll say this. I'll say this in two perspectives. Like, first and foremost, the individuals who put this plan together were not planning in 40-year windows. They were planning over time. Now, the person who grew up poor and white, I understand that. That's an issue we have to take up with the elite. For me, my thing is contribution versus contribution. Contribution versus contribution in the sense of, if those individuals who say that, for me, we are forever. There's a piece of the first man or the first existing being in every single one of us. So we've always been here. This thing with captivating, everybody's dead that was alive during slavery, I'll give you one up on that. We can even argue the point. Let's erase slavery up into the Emancipation Proclamation. This is when payment should start. Forget the human trafficking, forget the kidnapping, forget the rape, forget the murder. Forget the genocide. Let's take it to a whole nother level. Let's just start from the Emancipation Proclamation and come forward. And you will come to find, I know a guy that's 108 years old. His parents would have been under those conditions. So we're not that far removed. This ideal that we're so far removed from it because we didn't physically do it. How can I inherit my father's wealth and not his debt? And this is where my problem is. But not the individual, it's the institution that I'm upset at. From the time he said, let everything be what it's supposed to be, and the people didn't listen and the government didn't enforce it, you owe me from then. And you can't say that you don't. Now, if we was talking about the full contribution, Europe have to go in their pocket because Haiti had to pay France back for monies lost during slavery. And at the same time, when we were screaming for civil rights, what happened after the civil rights movement, Tommy? Let me tell you what they did to my father and him survive in Brooklyn, New York. Let me tell you what happened. No airplanes. We own none. We own no what do you call them? Laboratories. No airplanes. How did crack cocaine get into the heart of the ghetto? How is that possible? You understand that they are out to eliminate me. You might not feel that way, but it's deliberate at this point. Whoever them boys had their hands in their pockets, kneeling on his neck. Every one of them had their hands in their pockets. And Dave Chappelle, I said it long before Chappelle said it. And now I feel comfortable telling people they talking to somebody.
There are lots of TV shows that will back up that narrative.
Yeah.
That are available on all platforms.
Yeah. And I'm not, that's what I'm saying. But we as individuals on this level, I feel like
and that's why right now Black Lives Matter should be heard by everyone, should be understood by everyone. And my mom didn't get it. I had to explain it to her. And you know my mom.
Yeah.
You love my mom. I mean,
absolutely.
Beautiful woman.
Mm-hmm.
But you have family, I have family that grew up in a different place and time. The same place, different time. Right? Thinking that, oh, well, it is what it is, and it's just how it is. And no, this isn't. This is how it was. It's not how it should be. And damn it, we're better than that.
And I see, like, exactly. And we have been better than that. We said that we was going to stand by something. We said it. This is what when I get into arguments with people, they tell me that America is a white Christian nation. Jesse McLeod, grew up with him. He looked at me and said, it's a white Christian nation. And I said, from when?
Christianity. And I hate to say it because I grew up, my granddaddy was a pastor. He was he would go into jails and he would spend his last dime to print tracts to take in to the prisoners to help them redeem themselves. And I know he was coming from a good place, right? But it doesn't matter. Christianity, for the most part, has caused more wars, more deaths.
If you were my son, you would do the works of your father. That's what the books say. So you see the outcome. It's not the intention, it's the outcome.
The intention, I believe, if we're talking about Jesus, right? So let's talk about Jesus for a second, because I don't want anyone to think that I'm speaking ill of the Bible, ill of Jesus. I believe the book, the Bible, the book was written by men. I do believe that.
You don't have to believe it. It's a fact.
I believe that's fallible, and there are things in there that should be questioned and should be honestly talked about.
Yeah.
I do believe also there are many amazing stories that should be adopted and preached.
Yeah.
I see you smiling. I see you. Are you feeling what I'm saying right now?
Absolutely. I grew up, hey, you know how many times I was there on a Saturday night, waking up, going to church with you on Sunday morning. My father said he came to y'all church one time on a random, and he was Eddie Lloyd's dad. You get me? You know, like they didn't even know who, you know, but they knew he was my dad. It's like, so I spent, you know, understand that was my foundation. The church and Christianity. I believe that we have to look at the root of Christianity, and we have to look at what the Romans did when they got a hold of that information, and how it wasn't allowed to be looked on from the poor people. They couldn't even see the book. You know what I mean? And
it was meant to control the poor people.
oh, see,
from what I've gathered, it seems like
you said it, not me.
White boy said it.
Yeah. And there you go. And that's what it is. That's what
That's it. The Bible is full of amazing stories, amazing teachings, amazing.
Well, see, my issue is that they don't tell you the original source of the information. They don't give you a clear understanding that these are written based on other individuals. You know what I mean? They don't tell you about Haru. They don't tell you about
Eddie. To be fair, yes, there are different books in the Bible. So yes, they do. So there are different individuals writing those things. When they say it's all the Word of God, I have questions.
The Osirian drama. Just if you look into the Osirian drama and the way that the stories reflect each other, and if you look at what Rome was doing when they was doing their best to get into Egypt and conquer and the time that we don't really talk about in Egypt, in that point, you have to look at the Osirian drama and what the Egyptians wrote, what they took from what the Egyptians wrote. Because from my understanding, Europe, Caucasus Mountains, we're coming out the caves. They're going to say that the South Russians were the Egyptians, the original Egyptians, but every Egyptian sculpture I see, people got their shirt off. I don't know what South Russian was going to be in that heat with his shirt off and not get melanoma, but you know what I mean?
Or a horrible sunburn.
But they have us believing like children. And this is, I don't want to get too deep, but they have us believing like children. My issue is this Santa Claus complex. We don't recognize the God in ourselves enough. They've separated us from our divinity, in my opinion, and in more ways than one. My issue is that this unnatural stuff that we're doing, we're going the wrong way. The savage had it right all along. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because
what is the unnatural stuff?
This unnatural stuff. Okay, I'm gonna get to it. So we saw a natural man in the wild. And
who was that?
The Europeans, when they deemed that the natural man was a savage because he was naked.
So who deemed that a certain other man was natural and savage?
Well, I know that my history tells me that you had the conquest when the European made his conquest.
When you say you had, you mean there was?
There was, yeah. But when I say you had, because I feel like we are all still a part of that. Like I feel like the first individual, I've been here this whole time. I might not have been here in this current life, in this current spirit, but I have always been here. There's a piece of the first individual still present. We're all connected. We've all always been here. You get what I'm saying? So I feel like my ancestors might be direct lineage, and they're showing me through DNA that you could trace everybody's DNA on the planet back to some women in the south of the Congo somewhere. You know what I mean? Like this, and this is the stuff that I'm getting. But historically, I'm just speaking in general. From my understanding of the history I was told, there was a civilized man in clothing who saw a wild man in the jungle. Let's just say it from that, where there was a civilized man, you know, the old school jokes. There was a civilized man and there was a black man, a white man, you know, them old jokes, but there was a civilized man in clothing and there was a naked man running wild in the jungle. That naked man that was running wild in the jungle, we called a savage from the civilized world. He was savage and he was uncivilized. The world needed to be civilized. This was the the original story that I'm selling. This is why I need to give you Christianity. This is why I need to save you. I need to save you from yourself because you're uncivilized. Mind you, these same people who are trying to civilize you got civilization from the Moroccans. So Africans came in through Spain during the Renaissance period. The Dark Ages were lifted, and people started taking showers and stopped burying their poo in the basement. I know history. I've walked through it all because I had to figure out why I was subjugated and looked at a different way. Hold on 1 second. Yes, Bobs. Hold on, my little one's coming. I'll get right back to it.
I love his accent.
Come here.
So much.
Come here. Come say hello to the people.
Hi.
What's up, buddy? How are you?
I'm great.
Yeah,
I love your hair, man. It's beautiful. It's so. Do you remember when my wife and I came out
that's
and we went to the restaurant? Do you remember?
And we went to eat in London. You were little, man.
You were a few years younger. It was about 2 years ago, so you might not remember.
Yeah, you might not.
But look what I made.
What'd you make?
Paddington Bear.
Is that Paddington Bear? That's amazing.
A puppet, and I wanted to perform a puppet show.
Can I get a virtual high five?
Virtual high five.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you.
Out the
That
man
was
cave.
amazing.
He's
Thank you so
amazing.
much.
Paddington's amazing. Can you close my door for me,
Yeah.
please?
Car's making one too.
All right.
Oh,
Wait. Baby number 2. Before we get
okay.
back to
There you go. Fair enough.
Nice.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. You want to say hi?
You
wanna-
might have to.
just
You
do
might have to.
waving.
You might have to give a little boost. Hey, buddy.
All right. Close my door, please. I love you.
Oh no! Leave it open.
Oh, okay. If you want to leave it open, leave it open. But Daddy's doing something. I can't talk right now. I'll be done in a minute.
We love
I
you.
love you.
Thank you. Oh,
All right.
little ones.
Yeah, but so somebody in clothing.
As I recall, that the last one that came in, I think, was being pushed at the restaurant. last
Yes.
time I saw you.
He was.
And now he's trotting around.
Well, and got a whole nother little man running around too.
Like, you have a whole other man running around, dude. How is that raising 2 whole other men? How is
Boy,
that?
It's scary to be honest. My objective is to try to be the parent that I need.
Let's take a time out for a second. I know we're talking about something else. How is it raising, and forgive me if this is insensitive, but how is it raising 2 colored men? Because they're looked at as colored, I assume.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
How is it raising 2 young men that have a darker pigment than others? And
I mean, at this stage, it's not a big issue. Like I said, you can find that on this side of the world, classism has replaced racism to a degree until you get up in class and then you run into racism. As long as you're down here on the bottom, we love each other. It's like everybody.
But down at the bottom too, you could have some racism.
Oh yeah. There's people. I know a girl that never seen black people. She want to touch my hair and his hair every time she see him. Like she's from where is Claudia from? Claudia is from the Ukraine.
Don't call her out now. Come on now.
No, she's not negative. It's not negative. She loves us. Like her son was born on the same day as Kamari. Like we've been tight ever since the beginning, but she just never seen black people. Never seen them.
Wow.
Never been around them. And that's where my argument is. If white people didn't want to be around people of other ethnicities, there's a place to go for that. Ain't no black people in Russia. You know what I mean? But America is a melting pot. You don't want to be in a melting pot. It's time to go. That's how I feel. You know what I mean? But we're back to the savage and all that, because it's the same. It's the same, but it's scary. It's scary. I hope, that's why I say I want the war to happen now. I want a dialogue now. I want this mess out the way before they put me in the ground.
Eddie, let me ask you this. Would you rather raise your boys in Sumter, South Carolina, on the Air Force Base, in that community, or would you rather raise them there in London?
No, I'm home. I'm bringing them home at some point. Yeah, home.
What do you mean by home?
Home, Carolina. I that's the States. I'd rather be on that side of the water raising my boys. Absolutely.
And why do you say that?
Because I feel like the pressure that's in America on us will give them a very vivid perspective globally on exactly what's going on globally. Because if you can't see racism in America and its effects, you can't see apartheid in South Africa. You can't see, you know what I mean? And if they're disconnected from my pain and the pain of their ancestors, they might not want to fight for it. You get what I'm saying?
But
Or-
now, I don't want to misunderstand what you're saying.
Mhm.
Are you saying that it's easier there for them as young black men in London than it would be here, but you want to bring them back here to the US?
Absolutely. That's what I said. And I know it sounds funny. It sounds strange, but this is the same thing I told my missus. From a perspective, this place is safe and it has all the bells and whistles, but they don't have a line of defense. If somebody came to my door bearing an armed weapon, I would have to surrender my life or my family. I would have no means to stand and give resistance. I am afraid of that.
Do you see that as a potential future in London?
I see that globally, this is not going to stop until they have complete control.
Until who has complete control?
I mean, to me, the elite, these people that sit upon high, these bankers. There's a one world order coming into play. This has been the plan since the beginning. You get what I'm saying? And until we get a global marketplace, a global government, one general consensus, all this stuff, there's somebody who's obsessed with control. I'm not necessarily sure. I can't label a group, and I'm not going to call them by these crazy names that people call it, but it's clear to see from a common sense perspective that the people who are in the powerful positions are not interested in easing the pressure on the people that aren't. And I'm going to say this by saying, I'm going to tell you that by saying this, it's that unnatural versus the natural. Everything that we do right now is unnatural. Every animal on the planet has this relationship with Mother Nature. It eats, it poos. Mother Nature takes that, does something with it, gives something back. We as men don't have that relationship at all. We don't give nothing back. We don't even give bodies back. We pump them full of embalming fluids, put them in a box that takes 50, 60 years to decay. Everything else has this relationship. And my thing is,
no, we can poo.
But our poo is poisonous. We need waste management. If you poo and bury it in your plant, you'll kill it. Facts.
Have you done that?
Yes.
You pooed in your plants.
I pooed and tried to grow something, mixed it with soil and tried to grow something.
You literally did that.
Absolutely. That's why I'm telling you.
Just to test it.
When somebody told me, I told them they were full of shit. And this was I had to be about 24, 25. I had my own place and I was like, fuck you. I'm finna grow. I put a seed in the ground, got a little weed seed germinated.
You pooped in your plant.
No, 24, I would have been in Texas at the time.
Oh, okay. But you pooped in your...
Yeah, but
really?
Yes. When I pooped, I mixed it in soil. I pooped, I dried the poop out the same way you process any manure. And then I put it in, mixed it in a pot, and the seed was already germinated. And I had one in a regular plant that was already germinated. The seed
you A-B'd.
Yeah. And originally the plant in the poo shot up quicker than this one. 3 days later, it was dead.
Well, There could
But
be.
I mean, we could go on Google. There's better ways now to find that out. But when I was younger, you didn't have everything at your fingertips.
This conversation is not about pooing on your plants.
Exactly.
This conversation is about
Sorry. But
what's
I'm just saying our poo is
happening
poisonous. Our poo is poisonous.
Eddie, have you seen what's happening in the US right now? They're looking to defund the police force. A lot of people are scared of that.
No, they're saying taxes stop funding the police force. Why are these rich people not funding the police force? My problem with America right now is, where are these corporations? Where the hell is Coca-Cola now?
Well, let me finish the question first. They say defund the police. People don't seem to understand what that means. They don't mean get rid of the police. They mean change the funds that are being poured in to that the police, the force that's there. Okay, the funds will be different, and then we'll put some funds over here for non-armed social workers to come in on certain calls. So when people hear defund the police, they think that the police are going to be going away, and you call 911, no one's there. No, that's not what it means. It sounds scary, but it shouldn't be scary.
Well, it's a part of what has to be done. You got to understand that those are frontline soldiers.
The police, the firemen.
No, not the firemen. I'm thinking that the defund the police thought process is misguided. It's not defund the police. It's not defund the police. We shouldn't be defunding the police. We should be creating the scenarios where the police are unnecessary. And this is where my problem is.
They're not necessary.
Absolutely. The police are only necessary in modern society at that split between those who have and those who don't have. If you look at it from romanticized. Let me make it romantic for a moment. But if you put everybody on the same level, then there's no reason for me to take anything from you.
Okay.
So if there is no gap in what you have and what I have, then there is no conflict for me to still rob. Now, you might still have the tenacity to murder. You might still have the tenacity to do other crimes. But as far as the necessity to steal, to eat, to steal, to survive, to steal, to compete, to steal, to get the Jordans, to embezzle, to get that fresh Mercedes, all of that comes out of that struggle.
Sadly, that is true. But at the same time, why is there the struggle? Because there are many people on this side and on this side. This side doesn't have the things that this side has. This side doesn't have the things this side has. So
because a war culture came into contact with an Aquarian culture. This is what you had happen in the war culture. One, and is dominating the globe as far as its perspective is, and you can tell by what we are creating. You have to understand that they took a wolf and they turned it into a pug. They took a wolf and turned it into a pug. This is how far the genetic modification is. We're so childlike in our perspectives that, for my opinion, they'll tell me that man created, that everything came from man. But I'll look around the world and see that everything on the planet fell out the pussy. Pardon my French. Every living creature on the planet I know come from a woman, but they're going to tell me that they started it first. They're going to tell me that these foods are nutritious, and I do research and I know they're not. They're going to tell me that this religion is nutritious, and I know that it's not. It's a war culture that came into contact with an Aquarian culture.
Who's going to tell you that?
I mean, just the historical evidence is going to tell me this. Like if you look at his story, when I say his, I'm normally talking about his story. You get what I'm saying in general, or he. I make it more personal so that people can understand it. It's not. We can't separate ourselves from yesterday. If I slapped you yesterday and it's tomorrow, I can't wake up and say Hakuna Matata. You might want to slap me today because I slapped you yesterday. This is our issue.
Well, Eddie, I can speak to that because I had one of my best friends. He didn't slap me in the face. He full on hand clenched, punched me in the face. A good friend of mine, a rapper friend of mine, Will. And if he's listening, I hope he hears this story. He punched me in the face as hard as he could. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know what his intention was, but he did that, and I backed up, and I was like, dang, man. And I took him down and held him down until he calmed down. I saw him a couple more times throughout my life, and the last time I saw him was about a year and a half ago, and he came up to the studio with a couple of females, and he was on drugs and totally just like out of his mind. And I was like 20 seconds away from calling the police to take him away because I asked him for an hour and a half to please leave because we were trying to record a song. And he kept on coming up to me like, yo, Tommy, blah, 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 blah. Like, Will, you got to calm down, man. So people, I feel like sometimes resort to things outside of their daily life. They sometimes resort to drugs, to this, that, the other, to try to find something to make things okay.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to say that that's wrong or that's right. But I will say, as we try to move through this new reality, this new 2020, I think we have to have honest conversations with each other about what
put us in this position, what got us here,
why are we here, how do we feel, like for example, reparations. Let's just bring that up. How do you feel about reparations?
I feel like if Haiti had to pay the French for the money lost during slavery, I feel if they were capable of burning down 600 black businesses and Black Wall Street and the system did nothing, I think that if you got my issue with them not giving us reparations is the main excuse that I get is, oh, nobody's alive that was a slave. But it's not like we weren't asking when those people were alive.
And can I speak to that for a second? If those people had the money that was due them, that would have compounded year over year, generation over generation, and things would look different.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
That's 100% true.
And my issue is that they used first the shield of Christianity, then the shield of the U.S. government to maintain and keep that from happening. And that's been a blatant move, not an accident. And the stains are on today, and the pressure is on us today because of that. And if we don't rectify, like if my leg is broken and I don't fix it, eventually, you know what I mean? It's gonna hurt every part of me. The leg is just important to me as my hand is. It's just important, you know what I mean? Every portion of humanity is needed. But for some reason, it is clear that if we didn't have an economic floor and we went from slavery to famine, and then the prison industrial system was created around that, and the Emancipation Proclamation only took the law out of the hands of the individual and put it in the hands of the state. And now we have chain gangs, and these Southerners are getting free slave labor. from the prison systems the exact same way that they were before. You get what I'm saying? If you don't give people a foundation, and at the same time that they wouldn't give land to us, they were giving land to Irishmen that were coming over. They were giving land to the Italians that were coming over. So it's not like it wasn't possible to give us an economic floor, but it wasn't a part of the plan. And that's where my thing is. Everybody's acting like all of this stuff is just magically, accidentally happening. I know that Christopher Columbus got his maps from the Moroccans before he ever set sail. You know what I mean? And he's understanding that this plan was in place since Rome, and these people are writing it down in the book and handing it to the rest of to these people coming through these institutions. If I took you as an 18-year-old kid out of a highly educated high school, you had the top scores and you've been a nerd and subjugated your whole life, and I took you to the side and I made you a boss, and I gave you power. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's if I was to put somebody in that type of position, offer you an alumni position and all these different things.
But Eddie, that was me. I was the nerd. I was the valedictorian.
No, you wasn't a nerd. You were a valedictorian, but you weren't a nerd. Nerds don't dance and have friends the way that you danced and have friends. I mean, like a social outcast. I wouldn't say necessarily a nerd. You're a nerd. I'm a nerd. You know what I mean? But socially, and we are accepted to a degree.
If we're honest, your family had more land than my family had.
I don't know.
True story.
I don't know how much land your family had.
Oh, nothing. Nothing is being passed down to me.
Yeah.
Nothing.
But the crazy thing about it is my dad had to buy that when, you know what I mean, he's out of Brooklyn, New York. He had to come down south and he sacrificed 20 years, you know what I mean, in that military.
This is just you and I, man.
But for you to be from South Carolina, where all that land was getting cut up and all that land was being handed out, I don't know
whose fault is that. I don't know.
You were out. Somebody in your bloodline was outcasted for loving chocolate.
Somebody messed up.
Somebody messed up, because that's where you get that rhythm from. Somebody had some melanin. No, it's to me, it's not a color thing. It's a conscious thing. The individuals who don't want to understand, in my opinion, don't understand because they don't want to. If we don't understand it from the time, if I was a lion out the jungle and a lion from the zoo came and called me a fake motherfucker, I'd be mad. But that's what we did. You look at Hippocrates and his medicine studies and who he studied and how he cured every disease known to man. And then you look at the foods that we're eating. If you look at COVID-19 in itself, if they really cared about curing us and getting rid of viruses and getting rid of this COVID-19, I have the cure right now for you, Tommy.
I'm listening.
The cure for COVID-19 right now. What is the biggest enemy to the human central nervous system, the immunological system of the human being, the immune system of the human being? What is the number one enemy?
Inflammation.
Sugar. But the inflammation comes from the sugar. All right. Now, the biggest enemy to us is sugar. To our immune system is sugar. So close sugar factories, make sugar illegal. Problem solved. 6 months to a year, the people gonna bug out. It's gonna be a drug. It's gonna be a drug-induced.
Sweet tea is about to be sold in the alleys.
It's got to go. It's non-productive. And if you look at a good 40%, maybe even more than that, of the existing conditions that people were dying from that had COVID, diabetes, what was the other one? I can't think of, but a lot of them are related to sugar. And this, how many people sugar killing every year? How many people tobacco killing every year? If coca leaves grew in America, if coca leaves grew in England, cocaine would be legal. Because it's okay to sell death if you sell sugar. But you know where that money's connected? You know why they can keep killing people? And why
Eddie.
Yes.
Look up those stats. Look up the stats really quick. And in fact, can you pull up? There was a track you played me the other day. Mm-hmm. Can you pull up the track? Can you play it? And would you give me permission to play the track on this stream? Because I don't want to play it if you don't want me to play it. But I would love to hear the track that you sent me. Yeah. I want people to hear it. And I have to go pee. So I want to
Okay.
like a minute and a half. Can you pull the track?
Yeah, that's easy.
Pull it up for
Yeah.
me.
Said it's not really representative to how deep this conversation is, but
No, the conversation is a little deeper. The track isn't exactly the track is a little, something else, but can you pull it up?
yep, I'm on it right now. I got you covered.
And I'll be right back.
Yes, sir. We'll be right back. What it hit for, huh? What he say, how you let him get away with this? What he say, how you let him get away with this? I hear you talking, hear you trapping, but you capping, dog. There ain't a real bar in your catalog. Hear you pussy nigga, swear to God, I got them jungle instincts, I can smell a fraud. And you fake it in some knockoff. Don't know what's on your head, but please don't get it knocked off. Everybody wanna be tough until it pops off. Everybody coming with beef. I brought the hot sauce. Just think the airport is your face about to take off. If you was employed to be fake, you did a great job. Keep a lawnmower for snakes that's in my backyard. Homie, it's okay to be you. Ain't gotta act hard. What he say? How you let him get away with this? What he say? How you let him get away with this?
It's solid, man.
Just playing around, man, having fun. I used to take this music thing too serious. I'm having fun now.
I remember when you first sent that to me. The first time I heard it, actually, I didn't hear it through the headphones as I should have properly heard it, and I was like, it sounds a little loud on the right channel and this that, and that. But when I finally heard it, I was like, okay, all right, because I didn't see it as quality as I saw you in my mind doing it.
Yeah.
Like I grew up with you, and you and I mean, we did talent shows, and we would hang out, be at the same parties, you'd be rapping, I'd be dancing and singing, and
Yes, sir.
I was just like, nah, that's not quite up to par. But then I heard the actual the track, and I was like, okay, all right. He what he say? I'm like, okay, you got levels to it.
Yeah, and that's yeah. From a lyrical perspective, I found that people don't want to be preached to, man. I can't reach the people that I want to pull out of the slums. You know what I mean? The people that I want to touch, you know what I mean? The individuals that are listening, I can't get them to look this way and give them this good information I have if I can't entertain them.
You know, it's funny, Eddie.
You know,
how many people these days might look at you and be like, "Yo, Pac."
Yeah, man. There's people in the UK. There's a whole group of Nigerians. That's what they call me.
You really?
I mean? Yeah.
Back in high school, man, it was like And I remember I even told you when they were casting for the
Yeah, the audition.
movie. I was like, yo, Eddie, you gotta. I'm trying not to cuss. Sorry, Mom.
Yeah.
If you hear this, I apologize.
Mm.
I'm not meaning to cuss, but dude, my entire life, I always, uh, I always looked up to you, man, and I know we had
Wow.
the mutual respect, and you always, to me, had, I don't know, it's hard to put it into words, but I feel like you always had a little more than the next person to offer a piece of advice, if that makes sense. Like,
The kids call it sauce these days, Tommy. Sauce. I had
is
a
it
little
called,
sauce. A
is it
little
called
sauce.
sauce?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. I was dripping a little sauce back then.
well, Eddie, my man, you always definitely dripped that sauce, and there aren't many people that I would ever go back to South Carolina, to Sumter, to Dalzell, to Brentford, and listen to what they had to say, unless they had receipts or
Yeah.
gray hair,
Yeah.
barbecue sauce dripping off of it.
You know.
There aren't many people that I would be like, no, no, you don't know more than I know. The only person that I think I would listen to would be you, or maybe my stepdad, my mom, something like that. So like close family.
I think that's relative to the fact that you know that I went through it with you. You know that how far I had to climb. You know what I mean? Because you was down there. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. I don't know. Yeah, back then I guess I don't know. It's something to do with my genetic. Like I said, DNA has memory because I didn't graduate high school. I'm no scholar. I was never the smartest person in the class.
But you were one of the wisest people in
And
the.
life came natural to me. This is instinct. This is how the eagle knows to build its nest. I don't know. This. You know what I mean? I don't know why, but it's a blessing. It was given to me by my mother nature. You know what I mean? And I didn't even notice it. The funny thing about it is I still can't come to terms with it at times. But I'm starting to grow into the fact that people can look to me. You know what I mean? And they have done for information. So now my objective is to get my information as sound as possible to make sure that my perspectives are as unemotionally diluted as possible, so that maybe that can be my position to help. You know, that sauce might allow me to touch enough people to change this global problem or help this global problem.
Eddie, can I throw another? Can I toss another little scenario here in the sauce?
Yeah.
Um, so a lot of people had a problem with the fact that I put up a post saying that I was a minority in school
Mhm.
growing up. A
Mhm.
lot of people got mad at that. And the funny thing is, the people that got mad at that were the people that didn't know me. They
Mhm.
were the people outside of Sumter. They were the people from Philadelphia, from New England, from like, you don't deserve, you don't do, and every single person that knew me was like, no, man, that's your story. I
But
knew growing up.
but the narrative is that the minority is associated with complexion or melanin, and that's not the case. Minority, if you look at the true definition, these are people that truly don't understand what a minority is. But they also don't understand that if you're hanging out and you look around the club, the places, the music that you like, the things you like to jam to, and you look around the club and it's 80 black dudes and 2 white dudes, you're a minority. Like, you know what I mean?
It was me and Artie, probably.
Yes, absolutely. And I've been there a million times. I've seen it. And this is what they don't understand. Like, to me, anybody who could come to you and tell you that you're not allowed to feel like that,
Mhm.
You know what I mean? That's my problem. What you mean? I'm not allowed to feel like that? Yes, you're allowed to feel like I'm allowed to say I was a minority because there was more black people around me that I remember than anything else. But they don't. It's because you were amongst us. I assume that. But that narrative of the minority and the lesser being associated with complexion and stuff like that, it changes the mental path. They don't want you to say I'm a minority. They don't want anyone thinking that any European is allowed to think that they're a minority, and that's crazy.
Well, maybe they don't want me to understand. I don't know what it is.
They don't know you, man.
I don't know what it is, but when people tell me you got to shut up, you can't say you're a minority, you can't, and I can't.
Let's look up what's the definition of minority. Let's see what Google says.
And I would never, ever, ever say that I could even remotely relate to being a minority in the country. I couldn't do that. But in growing up, 100%, I was and I did. And you were there to witness it.
Smaller number of the smarter number or part, especially a number or part representing less than half of the whole.
Definitely
Simple. Simply. That was your existence. And that's what people don't understand. They can't step out of their own existence into somebody else's a lot of times.
Hi, I'm different than you.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
And see, this is why I've dug in to, I think
this is what people need to hear. It's not all black and white. There's
gray. And the issue is, that's why I said it's not a complexion thing, it's a consciousness thing. The same type of person, in my opinion, that can have $6 billion, $6 trillion, and not spend every waking minute of their life trying to make the world better, lack the same morality that an individual who can hate somebody based on simply the color of their skin. They lack the same morality as somebody adult who could fondle a child. These types of lack of human nature, we have glorified them in the past. We've glorified raping, pillaging, conquesting like it was something to be proud of. And
there might have been some statues about that too.
Yeah. And we haven't healed from that, and we haven't treated it as a mental illness. I feel like racism, not to give racists an out because it's a chosen illness, but racism is a mental illness, in my opinion, because it's not even realistic. It's so, if they look into the fact that racism only started white people, the phrase white people only was born in between 1840s and the 1860s. I can't remember. It might have been 1861. Yeah, to be exact. I'm counting. I'm typing through my brainwave. That's what it is. I'm literally moving pages in my head. But
I love you, man.
I love you too, brother. But yeah, it's historically that 1861. Before that, it was the Anglo-Saxon and the I do believe the Irish weren't considered white. Neither were the Italians or the Jews. Neither of them were considered this white. And that was born in Virginia in the 1800s. If you look into it, you'll see exactly what I'm saying. That's where the first phrase white ever was used to generalize the people. And that's when the color conflict came into play. And if you look at that same time, just before that, you know what I mean? You got Napoleon riding around, ripping and running through Egypt, blowing noses off of Sphinx. Like, if we look at the full narrative of what was happening at the time that these things started taking place, we truly understand. But my biggest issue is our plight against nature. I don't care who the leader is, as long as you're leading in the right direction. The plight against nature is my issue.
It seems to me that we haven't had a leader leading us in the right direction for a long time.
We haven't had one of our leaders address the central nervous system or the immunological system of a human being. We're all dealing with a global pandemic, a virus, and not one leader has said, listen, if you modify your diet in this way, it will make your immune system stronger. They said, let me sell you a vaccine so that I can be forever rich. Because we have to create some other form of currency. You have to watch the Western world scrambling for a way to create currency right now.
I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you, okay, what do you mean? Is there something people should be eating?
Oh, wow. I'm going to put it to you like this. We are unplugged, brother. We are completely unplugged. Everything in the grocery store except for the coconut came out of laboratory. That cow, that's the pug. That tomato, that's the pug. And what happens in that transition between they put themselves in between us and Mother Nature, which is essentially putting themselves between us and God. The devil's greatest deception is that a deceit don't exist. Why is it that people are lactose intolerant? Now, I'm not saying everybody should eat the same thing, but I believe that we are subject to the same rules of nature, right? The same rules of nature. I don't know if you watched Roots, but the first thing Kunta Kinte said is they are making us eat this food. When they brought the African across the water, did they bring his food with them? And when they found him, you look at the gorilla. He muscly. You look at all these vegetarians. When they found us, we looked like we was fit for work. And we survived all that time. You know what I mean? There had to been something potent going on there. What were we eating? What was the original food of the original human? And that will empower us all. You understand? Like when we saw the savage, and when we saw the naked man, the wild man in the jungle, and we called him a savage, it was clear we was going the other way. And that's when the violation began. Now, everything else on top of that, anything that is counterproductive to nature is the devil, in my opinion. Not devil like under the ground with the pitchfork, but I'm talking about anything that is in conflict with life is death. And the light and the darkness conflict in that way. And that's just not complexion wise, but the like energy wise, the light and the darkness are going to conflict in that way, and there's no way to avoid it. I don't care if you're atheist, I don't care if you're evolutionist, I don't care what you believe in. You believe that nature is the foundation, because we're connected. Every piece of the universe is inside of us, from the melanin gases to the you know what I mean. We're a part of it. We're a part of it all on a biological level. So with that being said, the most potent form of that is what will provide for us. Every other animal, you got birds, right? There's a bird that eats a nut, and there's a bird that eats meat. Not all the birds are designed to eat the same thing. And when we were found, there was no chickens, there was no cows. You want to find natural food, start digging, because it took me a long time, and the stuff they tell you to kill is the best stuff for you. They tell you to kill the burdock that's in your backyard. They tell you to kill the stinger nettle. They're weeds. And they make you plant grass that is going to do absolutely nothing for your nutrition. You can't eat that. If they were training us in a different way, and it would.
Who tells you to plant weeds that you can't eat?
Well, culturally, I've been brought up to kill weeds. If weeds are growing in your garden, if you see a dandelion, it's a weed.
I see clover often.
I don't. No. I'm just saying that there's certain potent foods that they have given us a directive against. Like they say milk. If you just analyze the milk, this is why I say we believe as children. There's no other animal on the planet that eats milk of another animal. Not one. But we're clever. And now they tell us that calcium is what is heavy in. But the reward doesn't justify the risk. Because if you go to the places where they have the highest milk content, where they drink the most milk, they have the highest bone diseases. So how is that relevant? It's because the milk is acid. It came out of the pug and not the buffalo. So it's acidic. So you got 6.7 on the acidity. So this means it's working against life because it's acid.
Milk is no longer a base, it's an acid.
Yes, absolutely. It's 6 point on pH scale. pH scale, acid is below 7, alkaline is above 7. Life is present, 7.1. This is where 7 or at neutral. You can't have life on the acid side. There's no life present. So they'll sell you water that's 6.7, which is scientifically considered an acid, but they're still allowed to call it a water.
That milk is a base and not an acid, not a base.
It's an acid. Look at the pH level. The pH scale is what tells me whether it's acid or alkaline.
I haven't been in school for a long time.
Yeah, I dropped out and never stopped going to school.
I was a valedictorian, but that was like 23 years ago.
I feel you, brother. I feel you.
I love you, and
I love you too, man.
And what I'm trying to do, what I want to do, is try to figure out how my family and how your family can connect across the pond to make this movement what it should be. Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
That's, for some reason, that's very hard for people to hear, and I don't understand why.
They're selling that narrative and they're pushing that narrative because
Who?
once we realize the elite, the individuals who are sitting back on all that money watching the rest of us struggle and starve, that the individuals who have every scientist in the world, every intellectual
Wait,
facility in the
are
world.
you saying the elite are pushing the Black Lives Matter narrative?
Yes and no. Yes, because if you have you create an internal conflict. If you create they created the racism, so the divide is necessary. If you put Black Lives Matter on White House Boulevard, that doesn't sound like unity to me. That's not a compromise. That's a conflict. They're selling the racism because once we realize on the lower level that we're all fighting over the same crumbs, but who really could ease this pressure is sitting back laughing at it all. You get what I'm saying? The only reason I say these types of things is because when you get into these secret societies and how much they have control of our governments and have been in position in financial positions, and then you look at all these bankers and where their kids go to school, and these are factories that are creating supremacy. These statues are designed to create supremacy. Jesus was painted in that depiction to create supremacy. This is a social engineering psychological play.
In one scenario, Jesus is painted as pale Jesus, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's also Black Jesus, brown Jesus.
But if you look into the way that he was created and the way that King James went about painting him that way, that was Michelangelo's.
And his interpretations.
Yeah, that was Michelangelo's brother. But how can he interpret and write down hair of wool, skin of bronze, and then paint that if there wasn't an initiative? That's why I say this objective been on the road since Rome.
And the even weirder thing is that King James was gay, and so now all of these,
as were most elite, powerful Europeans of that era.
But
that was considered a form of dominance.
Most, conservative Christians frown upon homosexuals.
Yeah. But see, this is
isn't Christianity about love, or am I wrong? Did I grow up being taught situational love?
Yes, but you got to understand, there's some people that will use that Bible to justify slavery. If you really go into it and you read that book, man, you'll come to see that, wow. And then when you look at the story of Egypt and how closely related to all those stories it is, there's common sense factors that outlaw all the madness. If you look at the story of Jesus, if we want to argue like from the story, I'm not talking about like whether I care if he even you know what I mean was walking on the earth the way they say he was walking in the time that they said he was walking. But I know that in the story that they tell and what the book says is that he ran into Egypt to hide from the conquerors that were coming to get him. So we have to ascertain what the people looked like there at that time. What people were in that area at that time. What did the people of that area look like for him to have blended in so well that they could not see him? And that's the structure. Like I said, I've looked into religion, I've looked into culture, and I find that none of that is as important as the nutrition. Because for me, we have to reconnect with Mother Nature. We have to reconnect with our original selves. And that's where the disconnect is. When I go to look for natural foods, I find laboratory products that afford me no nutrition. And I've done the research, and there's no way that me being a non-scholar, hold on one second, me being a non-scholar would run into a situation where I figured out that all these foods are killing me. And nobody else knows. You know what I mean?
What's happening over
there? Yeah, come in.
Are your kids trying to bust back in?
Yes. I'm almost
done. Do you have any nails?
Yes, I have nails.
because I want some. Because I want to make a tent in the front room.
You gonna put up nails in the front room? Your mama has your mother agreed to this?
I'm going to ask her
In, in the front yard?
Front room. He's trying to hammer nails in the front room. He's trying to build a fort.
Is he playing mama versus daddy? Right now?
Bob the Builder. That's what they all do. Play two ends against the middle. Hold on.
That's why we only have dogs, bro.
And
you still got the hair going back there.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice.
Down here.
Let me see it.
Well, it's braided now, so it's not really. I'm not really gonna be able to get the full length out of it now.
I'll free mine.
Yeah.
I think I should free. Actually, I had a bunch of hair. Last week.
That's where we at.
Yeah, man. I love it.
Daddy, mommy told us hit me, Daddy.
You smell of poo. Did you do a poo?
No, I want to take.
Don't tell me no story. You did a poo, didn't you?
It's a poop, Baron.
Did you do a poo?
Oh, get your diaper changed.
I thought it in my time for things.
Yes. Please.
Bye, Daddy.
Bye.
He did a poo.
He just came in here and ran that funk all around my space. Yeah, but that's, to me, nothing's more important than the nutrition side of things, because that's the everlasting life that the Christian speaks of. I can relate to that. We talk an everlasting life and obedience. That obedience isn't to God. If we're obedient to the laws of nature, there will be everlasting life. But this path we're on has an expiration date. And that's a fact. The capitalism is non-sustainable. It is impossible to maintain that consistently and have peace and harmony at any point in time amongst the people. It is unsustainable. The way that we consume, it's unsustainable. So it doesn't matter how many different methods we create to sustain this bogus lifestyle. If we don't start getting back into nature, and this is the problem. You can't evolve outside of nature. People are telling me we're evolving and we're not becoming more natural. And I don't see that as evolution. Now, where evolution happens the most is like the Galapagos Islands. You're dealing with dense populations and natural selection. You know what I mean? Like even the sense of monogamy. Like no disrespect to the monogamous people that are watching. I'm in a monogamous relationship at this time as well. But the thing that you have to understand is that monogamy was created law in Rome. So rich people didn't have to do too much to divide their assets. And then the common people started copying that. We're so programmed that now the ring that wasn't even associated with marriage is at the forefront. We have to look that we are completely unnatural. We are outside of ourselves, and this is unsustainable. We can't continue to eat unnatural foods and think we're going to evolve. That dense population and natural selection creates the most diverse species of creature. You get what I'm saying? So in those pockets where that life is present, you know what I mean? It's the most powerful, most powerful environment for evolution. But if we're going away from natural, then we can't evolve. You get what I'm saying? Now, the computers might evolve in it, and the systems around us might be evolving, but we are not going through an evolutionary process if we're not dealing with natural selection and in an dense, concentrated natural environment. So if we're not eating the positive foods, we can't move forward. Where did these diseases come from? Where did this sickness come from? Where did this violation come from? Because when you go to them places where the people live naturally and they eat a natural diet, they're not susceptible to this coronavirus in the same way that we have been. But it's hard to find those places because everywhere the European went, he brought his animals with him. You look into Grigor Mendel, and it's not, and like I said, I have nothing against Europeans. I just need for us to really look at the historical reverence and exactly what parts everybody played in creating the circumstances that we are in today. And once we all look at that and we look at each other as brother and sister, instead of looking at each other for color and class and all these separations, they put these things here to divide us on purpose. And somebody wrote about it, and the message managed to make it all through religion and all through everything. There's a war against good and evil. And I don't care what nobody says.
Eddie, I don't care either. And there's a reason why I reached out to you at, what was it? It was around 1 a.m., a little after 1 a.m. LA time, Pacific Standard Time.
I am 11.
Yeah, morning. Now we're coming up on 3 a.m. and that's fine. That's fine. I'm down to sit here and have this conversation all day, all night. But the motivation for me isn't to have you talk to me all night or have your kids come in and talk about their fancy things they're doing. They the beautiful thing for me is the fact that you and I about 2 hours ago connected immediately about something that we were talking about and said, yes, let's discuss this right now because the world needs to hear this.
Yes,
And
indeed.
there are not a lot of people that can step into this place and talk about this from the place that you and I can talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we're special. I'm saying that we were fortunate to have grown up
Yes.
that we grew up. A lot of people might hate this. A lot of people might even throw stones or be mad at me
Yeah.
for having this conversation. But I don't care.
Well, why do you think they preach the segregation and try to keep everything separate? Because if you have to grow next to me, the love that you're gonna attach yourself to, you know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? Same thing and vice versa. If we are together and we're going through the same struggles and we're moving through the same pains, it doesn't dehumanize me. It doesn't desensitize you to my human nature. But if you like I said, where the money is, they isolate. They isolate themselves. They isolate their children.
Here's the whole thing about the growing. Let me give you an example. This literally happened last night. So I started, and I had a bell pepper plant growing. No, tomato plant growing up, and I had a lemon pepper plant growing, and it started having the little, twirling little vines, little swirly, and it started grabbed a hold of one of the tomato vines and pulled it down. I was like, no, you can't do that. So we talk about harmony. You can be in the same area and not be in harmony.
Yes. We are in conflict from the time we open our eyes in the morning.
But the beautiful part comes where we open our mouths. We have mouths. We can speak. We can talk. We can communicate. And you and I, Eddie, we've never had any problem as far as communication.
No.
I've loved from day one, and I will never stop loving you. And I just want you to know anything that you ever need from me, let me know. And I hope that anyone that is a friend of mine that might see this understands that you are a beautiful human being. And whether you decide to stay there in London or move somewhere else, I'm sick and tired of people making decisions based on pigment.
Yes.
Not okay.
No.
Not okay, because that means nothing.
Yes, and like I said, if you really study how they ushered it in, you'll see that it's bigger than just it's bigger than black and white. It's an economic thing, and it's all financial, and at this point, it's they as long as you can keep the poor fighting over the crumbs, you can keep laughing all the way to the bank.
The cool thing is everyone now has access to the internet.
Yes.
people are starting to wake up and
This is what.
that the 1% can't control the 99%.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's see, the thing about it is we think that they can't. They have lowered our resonance to such a degree. When you see these, we are. I'm saying we're waking up in droves and the people are coming, but the problem is there's no infrastructure.
There's about to be.
There's a bunch of and we're putting it together. We're putting it together. There's time, and we're on a mission. And I've been saying it the whole time. First, we coming for the sheets, then we coming for the rings. And that's like I said, I'm putting myself out there on a chopping block to even have a open-minded conversation on open air like this, because I don't post this kind of stuff, and I don't have a podcast, and Eddie, I don't do these types of things.
Eddie, though, really quick, and I would be remiss if I didn't say this. There are a lot of white people that are scared.
Yeah. See, understand that first and foremost, that the nature of.
Do you understand why they're scared? What they're scared of?
No. Tell me, because for me to assume would be like somebody to say they know my pain. Tell me, because I don't.
I would. You answered quickly, so I would actually like to understand your assumption, if you don't mind. What do you think the white people are scared of?
I think they're afraid of losing their position. I think they're afraid of ultimately equality. I think it's a guilt thing. They're afraid that because of the negative that they've done unto us, that if we were put in a position of power, that we would do the same unto them. Why would we not? You know what I mean?
And okay, so
they're afraid that everything's gonna flip on its head and it's gonna be racist the other way. That's what I feel like the fear is.
Eddie, what you just said two different things. You said equality, and then you just flipped it beyond that.
Yeah.
So, do you think they're afraid of equality, or are they afraid of it being, or are they afraid of revenge?
I think it's a bit of both, because equality, putting somebody in equality, if you make me equal, you give me the opportunity to take revenge. You get what I'm saying? True equality gives me just as much sway, and that would put me in a position to discriminate and to do all that extra stuff, and the likelihood that somebody is going to do that. But I'm under the influence that people aren't truly. Like it takes a certain type of human to do that, whether black, white, or indifferent. Now, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Continue.
No. I mean, it takes a special type of person, black, white, or indifferent. It's a love thing for me, man. Like it's hard for me to comprehend what we're going through. But it's oh man, it's difficult. It's difficult. But how do you feel? Like, what do you think? What are they afraid of? What's the fear factor? I don't know where the fear is based, but I would say that if you look long enough now, if I was to talk deeply, I think we're afraid of the genetic composition. I think that the fear at the top of the ladder is based on the fact that I have a lot of carbon in my skin, and I think that somebody figured that out a long time ago and decided that if you continue to populate, it's a possibility that I won't exist. But if that be the case, then everything comes from the same place anyway. So it's madness for me to believe that would be the reason for all of this mayhem. But I understand that there was a time where genetic studies were heavily done. And I do recall that shortly after that, there was a very heavy push to eliminate people of deep melanin, and I don't know how deep the story goes, but if you look at the evidence, it's evident that there's a war, that there's a fight. The stuff that's gone into Africa and the things that have been created just in part to change the globe. That's what I think at the top. But at the bottom, like I said, is people think they're going to lose liberties. People think they're going to lose their land and their possessions and these things. And the funny thing about it is you don't nobody own it anyway. For somebody to sell me something that they got for free, for somebody to take water that was given to everybody, create electricity and to charge me for it forever, infinitely, and it's coming out of nature. For us not to be living self-sustained and completely independent and not have to necessarily spend 40 hours a week working, for life to be harder now for me in 2020 than it was for my father in the 60s and 70s and his father before that, for the world to be harder now and us to still be struggling and going through these things, says to me that the people in charge aren't really motivated for change. They're not really motivated to put us in position, because everybody could have free electricity. Why are we still playing this monopoly game? Everybody could have free running water, food, clothes, and shelter. Why are we the only animal that has to pay for it?
I agree.
And this is where the foundation of the problem is. It's that thought process that, and now when you get to talking like that, well, we can't put the lid back on Pandora's box, is what I get from everybody else when we hit that roadblock. And that's the conflict. We can put the lid back on. I think white people are afraid of change more than anything else.
Here's my daddy. Hey, daddy.
Thank you. Love you. Go.
I told them they were one of they were rude.
Okay, come sit with me. But you got to listen and be quiet.
I didn't want to get with you.
I know. You got to sit and be quiet then.
I don't just be tired.
Okay, well, give me a minute and then you can come sit with me. But Daddy's having a talk. Okay?
I want to go in too.
Okay, come on.
Maybe he needs a high five.
Yeah. You even finna play this drum. Hold on. Can I turn my can I mute you? Because he's about to drum on that drum.
Absolutely.
Hold on, maybe
That
not.
were immigrants.
Okay. I'll be down in a minute, I promise. I won't stay up here
That
too
were
much longer.
immigrants.
That's my instruments. Yes, it is my instrument.
This guitar is a rhythm. And I play with it. I want to play with guitar.
You want to play my guitar?
Yeah.
Well, when I get finished on this talk, maybe we can play it, okay? Let me finish talking.
No, we'll do it later while we'll do this.
In a minute, Baba. Maybe, well, Mama, can you take him with it? I'm almost finished
Maybe
talking. Can you-
mommy do it.
Maybe. Take her the guitar.
Do you have a ukulele?
Kyrie, can you come out for a minute, please?
I'm almost done, though.
Come on.
No, I got a harmonica.
I don't want to.
You don't have a uke for him?
I don't want to.
No, not yet.
We gotta get you a uke for him, man.
Hey, man, I got an address. There's a birthday coming up. I got an uncle named Tommy. Ukulele.
You can get him pretty
You need
cheap.
to be at your door for 1 o'clock.
I know.
It's like 11:30
I
already.
got you. I'm on it.
Just letting you know. Yep.
I don't want to do
Go.
that.
Kyrie,
Take the guitar. If you'll take the drum. If you want one, take it.
Kai, bring the drum. Bring
Please.
the drum. We'll go drum downstairs.
We're almost at a pivotal point.
guitar.
We're live on all the streams with
I want
Tommy.
to
and-
guitar.
I think he wants the guitar.
Take the guitar, Mama. I got you. Take the guitar instead. Take the guitar.
Clothes on.
No, what you couldn't see his naked on the internet, but he's in order to see him naked, I'd have had to pick him up. He's like he's naked on the internet. No, he's not.
No.
naked on the internet.
No. I'm showing nipple, but he's
So, yeah, but I mean, like, change is in its most part. The people that I know.
Eddie, really quick, because people that are watching this that might not know, you have an interracial family.
Yes. And that'd be the head buster when I'm talking like this, and people really be like, "Oh, he's his brother. He's a red off. You're definitely no." It's coming from a place of love.
And that's the thing, man. Like, I post things sometimes, and I see people sometimes misread them, misunderstand them, and they think that I'm trying to create racial discord or unease. And I'm like, no, I'm starting a conversation.
Yeah, we have to kick the dialogue. The dialogue is
If you can't have a conversation,
change will never happen.
exactly. And people block people because they don't agree with them. That's the worst thing you can possibly do.
Absolutely. And this is our problem. We don't want to look at ourselves in the mirror That's it. People don't want to see themselves. People don't want to see that we are so far from where we could be, because they've got us obsessed with things like with the emperors. What do they call it? The gladiators throws the emperor throws like back in the days when something was going on, the emperor used to throw like a big like they used to have the gladiator pits and stuff like that. They used to put on a show. I forget what it's called. It's a specific term, but they have us so obsessed with sports and music, and it got us so distracted with all these things that we can't see. We don't even know what we eat. And you got to be a scientist to figure out what's healthy.
But right now we know and we get it. And yes, sports are great.
Moving forward,
entertainment is great, but we have an amazing time right now, an amazing opportunity to connect one-on-one.
Yeah, but what I mean, is that all you think they're afraid of? What else do you think? Trauma. This is a point that I didn't make.
What is the clicky sound? Because there's something that's happening in the background.
Oh, sorry. So yeah, it was my fan. I had to cool the studio down with this foam up, and the sun coming through the window. This room gets hot, and I closed the window.
I'm sorry.
As far as what else do you think folks are afraid of? But I was also it had sparked and it's gone now. That was something that as soon as I said that, what else do you feel people are afraid of? What's the other things? That was my question, and then something popped in. I'll get it back.
Eddie, I think if someone saw you walking down the sidewalk in my neighborhood, they would see your hair and they'd be like, "Oh, who is this guy? Why is he here?" They might not think that you belonged here, and I would be like, "What?" Because of your hair, right?
Mm-hmm.
2 weeks ago, my hair was long. I didn't have the beautiful locks that you have, but bottom line is, like, people see you a certain way.
Yes.
And if I went for 8 months and had long dreadlocks, I would be seen a totally different way.
But see, that's the funniest thing in the world to me. That's the funniest thing in the world to me, because to me, the black guy with dreads is a lot less dangerous to our planet than the white guy in the suit.
I don't think it's funny. I think it sucks.
I think it sucks, but I just think it's such a giant hypocrisy, because I'm still searching for what Africa did to Europe. You know what I mean? When the war, that's why I say it's an Aquarian culture. You met the Native Americans, they were like, "Yeah, take your piece, all good." They met the Africans, yeah, it's all good. And some of it was conflict. When you get too deep into the mess and try to start taking too much, then the wars kick off. But it was to me, the vegetarian didn't bring war to the or apply pressure to the world in the same way that we have since we've got on this westernly course.
I think the bottom line is that far too many people look at someone else and immediately judge them.
But it's indoctrinated into the system.
Yes,
into the
schools. We grew up that way, right?
Yeah.
As kids.
But see, the funny thing about it is that's the power of South Carolina.
But then we became an adult. We became adults.
Mm-hmm.
We looked past that. Dude, but by the time I was 10, 12, I realized all the stuff that I heard when I was 8, 6, all stupid. All stupid. Like, these are my friends. These are my best friends.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you heard the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, growing up, you probably heard white people think that you're the devil. They hate you.
Oh, right? Man, you know, I was all across the color lines in South Carolina. I was in houses I wasn't supposed to be in. I was up under.
Of course.
I was everywhere because I wasn't afraid of racism because I didn't understand how dangerous it was. You know how when you're young and you take big risks?
Big risk. It wasn't a risk. It was just going to your friend's house.
Yes, and that's what it was. But if I would have known that his dad was a Klan member and that me going to sleep in a tent in his backyard, I could have vanished and disappeared. Like I was in some places when I look at the world right now, going hunting in the woods with a bunch of country boys. I was out there and they loved me.
But dude,
But I would those type of circumstances. I understood why my dad said, "Boy, he used to be afraid for me," and I didn't get it.
and I get it, but you were safe the same way that I was safe when I came and spent the night at your house.
Yeah,
Because we were friends, we had love for each other, and
Always.
anything that happened previously didn't matter.
yes, exactly, and that's the power. That's the power of where we are. The only issue that we run into is the economics, and it's
I agree.
as a power. And I said something the other day on Facebook, and I got a lot of people were upset.
But before you get there, really quick, we only have like maybe 2 or 3 more generations of this racist bullshit, and then we can go back, like, and dealing with the financial aspect of what went down is separate from dealing with
The emotional damage.
the damage
trauma.
that's there right here.
That's
right?
what I was about to say. That's the trauma,
Right.
and this is, yep. That's what I was.
So-
that was it popped back into my head, that thing I lost earlier. So you go ahead.
So
Trauma.
we have to fix that first, and then we can figure out what that is, what the other thing is,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
Like one thing at a time.
Yep.
Not
So
to
we have
mention, I hope to God we're fixing the police brutality BS that's happening right now. It seems like people are being called out on overstepping. Seems like people are understanding they need to step back and do the job as they should do it. Seems like things are getting better there.
But people are screaming defund, but it's not the funding that's the problem, in my opinion. It's the screening process and what makes you qualified and things like that. You should be armed in combat. First, let's talk about the trauma. DNA holds memory. They did a study
Sorry?
with mice. I said DNA holds memory.
Okay. Yeah.
They did a study with mice where these mice were afraid of a poisonous bush. They took them into captivity. They had babies in captivity, never been exposed to the bush. Got them into the wild. They were also afraid of the bush, right? So DNA holds memory. So that means the trauma of going through slavery is still within the individuals who were enslaved, and the trauma of being present and being present at lynchings and being that inhumane, we're dealing with that trauma too. You get where I'm coming from? So it's both sides of the spectrum have trauma to deal with, because could you imagine being a kid at a lynching? They had lynchings and put up postcards and things like that. And this ain't thousands of years ago. This is hundreds of years ago. You can't tell me that they really in their heads thought that I was an animal and I was 3/5 a human being. That's smoke. That's a smoke screen. So that trauma that we have now is associated, and I want us to move forward. But the issue that we have is that they have institutions that are or factories
Prisons.
that are making. They have factories that are making these people, not just prisons. They have factories that are making these middle-aged or these people with these perspectives, these societies, these clubs, this boys club that can't nobody get in or see inside of, that with all this money and holding on and having these conversations. That is what I'm afraid of. That's what we all need to be afraid of, not each other, but I think they're attempting to start a race war. That's why these people keep coming up and they're hanging people all over the place. They need us to clash at the bottom, because we're becoming conscious and we're waking up. All of us will see who our true villain is soon enough. But if they can't create controversy and find a way to separate us, they have to find a way to control us. So they need to vaccinate us all and put a chip in us all so that they can track every single individual, or they have to do something, because this current plan and this current structure that is working, it's not going to continue. The reign is up. Every great empire must fall. And Anything that's dying fights back. And to me, I don't want the earth to be that thing. I'd rather it be us. I'd rather us fight back than the earth, because she will scratch. She is alive. And we are a nasty rash.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she will do like this. And that's like I said, it seems like we're trying to.
She does.
Yeah, and she does. And she will continue to. Eventually she's gonna scratch in a major way. And that's what I'm afraid of. I think we have to start heading back in that direction. And I think we have to deal with the trauma now. And to deal with the trauma, we have to remove certain things that are creating anxieties and pressure on humans. There is no reason any human on earth should be paying for electricity right now.
That's a whole other issue.
But I'm saying that these are things that once we deal with the trauma and the pressure, you until you take the pressure off the people, we're not gonna find peace and harmony. We're not gonna find peace and harmony if there's inequality on any level. And that's where my conflict is with but we need to treat racism like a sickness.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
I agree.
Yeah, in 2020, it needs to be treated like a sickness. If you were open and out about racism and you were racist practicing, but we can follow the money to where the racists are, and we can take down their corporations. We know whose dad went to this institution, whose fault that can be followed. Follow the racist money and stop investing in their corporations. If we want to do something right now, if we figure out that Coca-Cola had a great grandfather who was selling slaves and he didn't want to be a part of this, and this, if we want to tear the statue down, don't just tear down the statue. Find out where his children are, what they own, and what they're selling to you, and stop buying it. Because they're the ones who passed on that information and that sickness to their kids. And as long as they have the financial position to control the narrative, they're going to push racism. As long as they control the media, they're going to push racism. They have to sell that racism game, because as soon as we stop fighting each other, we'll start paying attention to who our real enemies are. And that's the people that are hoarding the resources, who feel like they are capable of dictating how many people should be on the planet. And this is real. And that's what people are coming to realize. It can't be all an accident.
And Eddie,
this ain't no.
I agree with that. I agree that we need to be on the same page, figure this stuff out. And eventually, yes, big corporations might have to answer for what they've been doing. Doesn't necessarily mean that every big corporation is bad. There might be some that are good, who knows? But that's for us to figure out together.
Yes, indeed.
What it comes down to is the media tries to separate us. There are headlines every single day that try to push people like you and me apart.
Absolutely.
Someone that looks like you should not be hanging out with someone that looks like me.
Yeah. And you could remember back in the day, as long as I was black, I could ride through Rembrandt and drive past the cops and not have a problem. But you add a white boy to the car, and we got to be up to something. And vice versa. If I'm riding through a white neighborhood and I'm in a car full of white guys, you add the black guy to the equation, or a car full of white guys in a black neighborhood, that them redlining and carving out certain areas almost immediately creates conflict. And that's what I'm saying. We have to come amongst each other. We have to come together. We have to conversate. We need to and have group meetings.
Yeah.
And start really like we need psychologists, because to me,
think about this. You and I in a car cruising up just over near Crestwood somewhere.
Garner's Ferry.
Right? No, that's Columbia.
Oh no. What am I thinking about?
Somewhere over near Crestwood, right? You're pulling up. And let's say we're going to the Elaine's Isle of Exquisite, whatever, talent show.
Yeah.
Me and Raymond hop out. White dude, half Mexican, half British dude, dancing going up against a couple rap groups.
That was our first experience. That's how we met.
Those dudes were talking about they want to shoot us in the parking lot. A couple of dancers dancing to like MC Hammer or something, ridiculous.
Intimidation factor.
Trying to tell us to get out of there. And you know what? We went in there, we danced, we won like $300. Nobody shot us. We left. If that had happened today, gunshots probably would have rung out in the parking lot.
Yeah.
And Sumter's getting a little crazy. People out there getting a little loose.
Yeah.
Bottom line, man, it's like, yo, people look at each other.
The thing you don't understand is, man, we're nobody gonna shoot two white boys in no black club nowhere on this planet. Y'all are as safe as stone. You know what I mean? And now it's a rarity. You might get beat up, you might get in a fight, but the likelihood that we're gonna leave your body there, because we know the consequences of that on this side of the spectrum. Oh my goodness. I know people that only rob black people and Latinos because they do not want to rob people and go to jail. This is a fact of the matter in the streets. We are not targeting.
How sad is that?
It's super sad, but that is the reality that we deal with. Like this is the normal, and that's what I say. We have to get to a point where society doesn't create that feeling, and the reason it's not an accident that West Nile contributions to history weren't written. Oh, well, we just write our history based on us. But you took the Egyptians' history, you went and found their history. You got everybody's history, and you only gonna tell your side, huh? like come on, tell it all. And that's what creates the narrative, and that's why we're out of the narrative now, and we're open-minded and we're going in that direction. But we have to look at all the things that push that separation and that distance apart from both sides. We have to, like I said, we have to look at I had to be today years old before I found out that the NASA pilots, the people involved in NASA and were women of ethnicity. You know what I mean? Like that we were involved in every creation from the automobile to all this. I had to find out that black people weren't allowed patents at a certain time. So whoever owned them. So if you look at whoever owned them is who got the credit. So your Alexander Graham Bells and your Greatest Adventures of the Past that owned slaves. If you look, a lot of the slaves wrote out and drew the blueprints for their diagrams and stuff like that. And this is documented evidence. But they never got credit for the inventions. They just because they weren't allowed to patent things. Or you have an individual who doesn't know how to patent it, and somebody runs down to the patent office and patents it better. This lack of telling us on that side of the world what we've done to help humanity, to help civilization, it makes it look like slavery was justifiable. Like we was really just running around doing nothing in the jungle and never advanced ourselves past being naked. Like that reality and that storyline puts us at a distance. The same thing with Black Lives Matter. I respect the movement and I understand everything that's going on with it, but I think Black Lives Matter Avenue being by the White House, that to me slightly creates conflict rather than a compromise. We could call that bad boy the you know what I mean? It's just to me like black against white, black against white, black against white. There's too much of that, and that's not really.
But that shouldn't mean that.
I know,
It
but
shouldn't mean that.
on a psychological level, on a level where we are saying Black Lives Matter, and it's sitting in front of the White House, that is accidental. But I'm saying that it should have never had to happen. But by creating that narrative, you've immediately pitted black against white.
I don't think that's accidental. And that should 100% be on purpose.
Yeah.
Right in front of the White House.
Yeah.
The one thing that I struggle with is, and I know a lot of the people that do this are opportunists and don't have anything to do with the actual movement. But when people come in and destroy businesses
Mhm.
of innocent people
Mhm.
in their own community, well, in the communities at hand, a lot of people come from out of state and do that.
Yep.
And then the movement gets blamed because of these people coming in doing this. And it's been documented time and again that it is people outside of the movement that come in and burn the police cars, burn the Wendy's, burn these businesses down. Yet the black people,
It creates this negative narrative. You seen what happened in England, though? They had a Black Lives Matter rally at the same time they had a far right rally, and the far right did more to the police. But y'all probably never got that story on this side. There was actually a Black Lives Matter young man of my ethnic persuasion who drug a white dude that was getting stomped and got left by his group that was fighting with him. He drug him out, catching blows from his own people to safety, and took him to the police. And
as
this
he
is this
should have, as he
as
should
he
have.
should have, as he should have, absolutely. And these are the things that I'm saying. Like, they don't show these acts of heroism. They don't show these acts of togetherness. They promote
They don't want to see us together.
they promote the negative experience, because as soon as we get together, what else do we have to do? We have to sort out, okay, now once we sort out the color inequality, what inequality do you think is next? Economic inequality.
Exactly.
And these nerds
and it's a pretty big swing.
I'm gonna say something that's powerful. I don't believe that the president of the United States or the prime minister of England or any leader should be able to be in that seat if he can't fight. Period. Not that he's the best fighter in the world, but if you cannot fight and you've never been punched in your face, because in every other animal kingdom, when the war is on, the alpha's in the front. You're not allowed to say you're alpha and sit in the back when it's time for bloodshed. You know what I mean? Like, this is what the rich do. They send us to war for their economics and these different types of things. And this is,
I respect that, but why do you say that the president needs to be able to fight?
Every other animal group. If you've not been in a fight, you understand ass whoopings build character. If you've never been on your back and had to get up,
you saw me grow up. So
yes, you know this is why you have good character. I seen you and your brother go at it, and y'all was playing, and I was just like, hey, y'all boys just go.
But we're talking about the president.
Yeah, he got to have that. He got to have that. A leader's got to have that.
He doesn't.
When I see a nerd like Donald Trump that ain't never been punched in his face, push a button and kill a gangster on the other side of the planet, I'm afraid. Revenge of the Nerds. He would not. I have a problem with somebody who won't stand in my face and say how he really feels. I can respect Donald Trump for that. He say how he really feels. You know what I mean? It might be twisted and he might be playing games with it, but he says majority, he speaks from an emotional place, so it's not often filtered. And that I can respect. I can respect that for days. And I don't respect a man who can't. If you got a problem with me and you come in front of me as men, you're supposed to be able to say, hey, I got a problem with you. And if we can't talk about it, we're supposed to say, okay, it's worth more than talking. We're supposed to fight and then exchange drinks. You get what I'm saying? Men who are built like that understand the price of war. They understand the cost of the fight. They understand.
First of all, I think war is stupid.
I do.
I think people should be able to have a conversation, figure it out. Your kid doesn't have to die. My kid doesn't have to die. Their kid shouldn't have to die. It's stupid.
Yes, but but see, the problem that the world is going to have with that statement coming from the Western world is you can't stop it and police it if you're the father of it. You know what I mean? You've stolen the planet. Now thieves, can't nobody steal.
So you can throw insults, but you can't receive peace.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
That's crazy. You said throw insults and not receive peace. That's That's the key. You have to. It's hard to receive peace if you're throwing insults.
Not hard. Just receive the peace and calm down.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you and I right now, I know we grew up together, but there are lots of people that want to see you and I fighting each other right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know how mad it makes them to watch us doing this right now for the past 2 hours?
Yep. 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 And that's
And I want to say that makes me happy, but it doesn't. It makes me sad that there are people that hate that.
Yeah.
It makes me sad, man.
It is sad, but
I love you so much, honestly, like a brother. I do. And for the fact that you and I have to sit here at freaking 3:49, 3:50 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Mm.
My wife has to wake up in like an hour and a half to go to work, and I'm sitting up here with you. I know you're in England and you've got your whole day ahead of you, but the fact that you and I have to do this is just ridiculous.
In 2020, and this is like I said, this is why we can't start and we can start in 2020 to solve the problem, but we have to get to the root. Like I said, we have to psychologically treat this problem.
What do you think the root is?
I mean, it's supremacy in itself. It's not white supremacy. It's just supremacy in itself. That same Hitler mentality. But the root of the problem is
Eddie,
inequality.
What can the average person out there, the average person that they don't think that the average white person out there that doesn't think that they are racist, they don't think that they have any sort of privilege, what can that person do? Starting today, what can they do?
Start policing the individuals who you know are. All the guys that I know that are non-racist that live in South Carolina that are white guys, they know and are connected to the white guys who are racist that are on the police force. We know who these people are. We know where they are. But the problem is what's right more important than the camaraderie. And that's where the conflict is. I can't police white males. I never have been able to. That is something that we have to start doing at home. And I'm not saying that we approach it and it has to be a bloodbath of some sort, but I think that it needs to be rooted out of our American society. It needs to be rooted out from the small level to the large level. And that's why I say we start with the sheets and we go into the rings. We have to get rid of this ability to put on a Klan uniform and walk down the street. That has to be terrorism. Just because they're only against black doesn't mean they're not terrorists.
Eddie,
you get what I'm saying? Like
Eddie, there's something that's happening out here. I'm not sure if you're aware of it yet. In fact, Google Victorville lynching.
Yeah. That was the signal.
And I'm sorry.
Yeah, and that was the signal. I think that whoever they was talking to with their hands in their pockets when they knelt on his neck, they sent out an okay. It's like they said, there's I think that the powers
that's a different thing.
Yeah, but yeah, I'm like, ugh, it's ugly. Should I Google it now, or you wanna?
No, Google it right now. Google it live right now.
Victorville. Should I YouTube or Google?
Victor, I don't know. I don't know.
YouTube.
It just happened like this past week, and it seems like it's happening out here. I don't know if it's a phenomenon where people are trying to create a scenario. I doubt it. Sounds to me like there's something happening here that should be investigated.
50 miles east in Victorville, another black man found dead, his body also hanging from a tree. San Bernardino County Sheriff's deputies making the shocking discovery near the Victorville Library. That's where they found the body of 38-year-old Malcolm Harsh. Deputies say his body was discovered back on May 31st near a homeless encampment. Investigators now say foul play is not suspected, but they say the cause and manner of death are still under review.
Hello, I'm Mark Brown. Click the ABC7 logo to subscribe.
That's news to you.
Yeah, but it's not the first one. Like I said, I believe that a race war is they're trying to stimulate a race war. At this point in time, we need an excuse to depopulate people, and if we're going to depopulate somebody, the best person to depopulate is the person that we've dehumanized. We do the same thing. It's the same practice. When Hitler was coming through, he used the media and the newspaper to decriminalize and dehumanize the Jews before he started his persecution and before he could draft enough people. The images, the hip hop music, and the way that we're portrayed, the things that get the money, like it's us doing it to ourselves. But all of these things like perpetuate the cycle. And I know it's I said it in one of my old rhymes. I said I know it's genocide, but try me and I'm finna ride. I deal with all my demons when they see me on the other side. This is what a lot of us in the inner city and in urban areas dealing with poverty deal with. That's the mindset. I know I'm wise enough to know that this is not productive for my people, but we don't have a choice. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things, like we have to start giving each other less pressure. I think that economically, these businesses, these are things that we could start doing to make things better. Like I'm not all for the problem. I'll offer some solutions as well. So all the businesses that have robots replacing people, from as far back as the assembly line at the car lots, they should still be responsible for paying into the society those monies lost in wages and not putting all the monies in the pockets of the individuals at the top, which is counter capitalism. But I understand that if you were to do that, that would free up, because now there's not a demand. So if either we stop contributing to that. So if we're going to complain about jobs not being available, we can't allow the commissary to put 3 self-checkouts in it. And if they do put them there, we don't use them. Don't use the self-checkouts. Try not to invest your money in businesses that are completely and totally robotic. Invest your money in people that are actually using individuals and supplying people with multiple jobs. Because the corporations aren't going to be held accountable on the highest level. You get what I'm saying? So we have to start fighting for what we need, because I could understand if they said, once we get all these machines in place, we're going to do something amazing. Any business that makes money like McDonald's and pulls $6 billion out of a community in 100 years, or in 2 years, 10 years, 15 years, whatever the case may be, should have to financially invest in the well-being of that community to a certain percentage of whatever their profit margin is. You get what I'm saying? These types of practices and these types of principles would completely start to pull us out of these endeavors. And I can't believe, for the sake of me, that I am the only one clever. The most clever, intellectual, prestigious people been running the planet for all this time. There is no way that my simple Crestwood education, final destination, young man self should be coming over here to England to have to express this to the people who have had money and all the education in the world. It's impossible they don't know this. It's impossible that they don't know that if they planted fruit trees down the streets of these cities, that the homeless and the people alongside would have something to eat, and we wouldn't have to go shop for this money. You get what I'm saying? You wouldn't have to go to the grocery store as much as you did if they made it law that every individual had to have a garden in a backyard and produce 20% of their own commerce. It's the dependency that makes us weak. It's the dependency that makes the system necessary. But they could create independence because everything could run that way. Just we as a collective, let's say for a community, here's another solution for community. I want to do a community outreach program where we first start off with product research. So you take the people in a 20 block radius or a 10 or on your block. Let's take 50 people on your block. And those 50 people all drink milk, all use toilet paper, all use toothpaste. So you figure out what brand of toothpaste they're using. You take that brand of toothpaste that they're using, and you say, or you take that research that you've done, and you say, okay, you go to the grocery store, and you say, hey, Mr. Grocery Store, I want to buy in bulk. They don't want to sell it to you in bulk. You say, hey, Mr. Toothpaste Distributor, I want to buy in bulk, and you should be able to get a discount based on your bulk purchase. But what we've done is we've allowed the grocery store to squeeze the farmer. So they're buying so much of his stuff in bulk and getting it for so cheap. They're buying his stuff in bulk and they're getting it for so cheap, the farmer. So we've allowed them to buy the milk at the cheapest price possible, and then to inflate it on this side. When if I went for bulk toothpaste with this market research that I did in my neighborhood, if I went for bulk, I should be able to get it cheaper. If we just start thinking more collectively, and not collectively based on complexion, but collectively based on development, and getting things at a better rate, we'd be in a better position, community wise. That's why I say the COP, the Community Outreach Program, it's funny that it's COP. But it's for the community, man. We have to start thinking collectively again and stop being dependent on government. If we really want to get out of or from under the thumb of oppression as a species, we have to be able to feed ourselves for 6 months. Because what you think they're gonna do? If we all stand up right now and say we're done, and we were really ready to start making moves that were going to be against the narrative, they're going to respond in time. This mission that they're on is not to be interrupted. They're going to respond in kind, and I feel like we have to get ahead of that. If they close the grocery store doors,
And
how long do you think before it's
that's the
chaos?
crux of the whole thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the crux. Is
we're dependent. So we can complain, we can march, we can rally, we can burn shit down, but until we make ourselves independent as we can be on nature, or as dependent on nature and not as dependent on these systems, then we'll find ourselves in a better position to negotiate. If I need you, you can't. If you need me, you can't negotiate with me. You need me, and I've made you need me. This is an abusive relationship.
look at that. That's interesting.
And that's what we do. We try to pretend that it's not. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's an abusive relationship. And if you look at it like an abusive relationship, you'll understand the plight.
Eddie, lay that down one more time for people so they can hear that one more time, because that's huge.
It is an abusive relationship.
If I need you,
yeah, then you can't negotiate with me.
And you don't need me.
Yes, then there ain't no negotiation. You can't negotiate from that's a place of no power at all. You can't negotiate with me if you need me and I don't need you.
And where do those relationships usually lie?
Insecurities.
When do you usually see a relationship like that, where someone really needs someone and the other side doesn't need them?
I don't know. I mean, what you mean? I see what you're saying, but it's such a broad. You see it in so many different places. You see it in so many different places, but you see it mainly between the rich and the poor, or between the system and the people.
Okay, given system and people. Okay, so I would think that maybe it might come into play wherein someone gets caught up in a situation, and there's someone that can step into a position of power to help that person take care of that, right? So let's say there's someone who isn't very savvy in the way of the law. Get into a little bit of trouble, and someone's like, I'll take care of you. They jump in, they take care of you, they charge a high fee to take care of little bits of this and that and the other, right? Which should just be common knowledge for the average person who might get picked up on, oh, well, you're walking down the street and you bumped into a newspaper stand and you might have been intoxicated. And so now you got to pay somebody $1,000 to defend you. But,
Yeah.
right. So somebody jumps in there, well, I'll do it for less. And it's the crazy thing is there are so many people that are willing to jump in to defend people because they know the court system will make sure that these people get paid, and these people will still be the people that paid these little guys thousands of dollars to defend them. They get their money. These people get kicked out of the system, whatever. And then the serious stuff goes that way. And these people now are in the media, and now we're talking about tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars. Lawyers are just little sharks, hungry.
Well, it's not necessarily, but a district attorney, a DA, if you're employed by the same system that profits,
DAs will not file unless they know for sure. These days, a decade ago, they'll file right away. Right now, they're gonna wait a few days. Like, let's just make sure
everything is towards.
Because right now, police officers are being charged with felonies, first-degree murder. Like, shit's changing.
Yes, and that's why they want to start a race war.
And it should change.
Yeah.
You don't think it should change?
Yes, we all know it should change. It's been, life is in a constant state of flux. It's been changing the whole time. It's just been a gradual change. Now we're ready for a massive change. We're ready for a leap in evolution, in the evolution of racial equality.
For far too long, people have been prosecuted for nothing.
Mm-hmm. I tell you, prisoners of war. If you look at it as an abusive relationship and that Black people are POWs, then you'll see that the empathy would change. But we don't want to see it as a war. We want to see it as conquest. We don't want to see it as barbarianism. We want to see it as colonialism.
I don't want to see it as any of that. I don't want to see it as any of that. I want to see my friends living their lives, doing the things they should do, doing the proper shit they should do. And, as kids, sure, you make a mistake here and there. Fine, slap on the wrist, grow up.
Yeah, but as adults,
it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter white or black. Should not matter.
No.
And I believe that with what's happening right now, I believe and I hope, I truly hope that police will have some sort of realization where they think, okay, I might lose my job or get charged with.
We can't root out systemic racism. Understand that the police force was started initially, from my understanding, as slave hunters, and we waited 100 years and
But do you have proof of that?
Yes.
Can you share it? Because it's not fair to say that and then not proof of it.
Yeah, I got you. Hold on.
Okay.
Let's go to Google.
Eddie, just being fair. Like,
yeah. I mean, it's one of those.
It should be. Every single one of these should be one of those. Like, if you're going to say something as extreme as that, you should back it up.
Yes, sir.
This video wasn't even meant to go this long.
The history of American police force, how the U.S. got its police force. In fact,
my goodness, we're now 2 hours and 38 minutes.
Yes, sir. We could, brother. I could talk to you for the rest of our lives, man. We've been talking since we were 16.
I know
President John.
how long people want to listen to us talk, but it is what it is.
Well, I mean, I if it was an interview as opposed to a chat, it would have been different, like with specific questions, trying to shoot directly to points. But I think when it happens organically like this, nobody's going to sit here for the 3 hours. But I think that the people that do sit here and really actually grasp some of the things, they might pop in, they might fast forward, but we're dropping heavy stuff in between. So if we were to take this episode and this live and edit it and break it down to key points, if you have time to do that, I think it would be a hell of a release.
Well, I want to make it known that I definitely did not want this to be like an episode. I was talking to Eddie, and he and I had things to say, and he opted out because we thought that people might benefit from the conversation. So here we are. If there are pieces of the conversation that you don't like or that you hate, that's fine.
Kentucky University. Policing in colonial America is very informal, based on
if you love it, say you love it.
Privately funded system that employed people.
If you're different,
Night watch.
That's right.
Volunteers sign up for a certain day. I'm sorry, hold on. I'm looking for it. I gotta out of this prostitution.
This is what a conversation looks like.
Yes, sir. For all those people out there that are not loving,
literally you're buried in a book right now, reading something, and I'm sitting right here waiting for you to come back and talk to me about this. You and I are having a conversation. So for people out there who aren't willing to have a conversation, y'all can fuck off.
Yeah.
And I feel 100% validated saying that. Y'all can fuck the fuck off. Sorry, Mom. That doesn't include you. But seriously, if you can't let somebody read something and learn something, if people can't have a conversation, you can fuck the fuck off. That's how I feel.
Well, they're saying it started in Boston. Hold on. You can't always just go to the Times Magazine or the first reference on Google and find what I'm looking for. Hold on. Let me go YouTube, because YouTube will get me straight to it. I find that I know that YouTube isn't the end all be all, but I find that there's individuals on YouTube who already have the information present. And if you check there sometimes instead of Google, I won't have to dig through the Google. So let me put first
Eddie.
Police.
I'm going to go to the kitchen really quick and get my water. But I'm going to put you on the big screen. So it's all you. I'll be right back.
All right. Yes, sir.
Don't sing bad.
From slave patrol to modern police. All right. Let me see what they're talking about. I'm not subscribing to this.
To protect and serve, but has that ever been the case for Black Americans? Today's baggage: how slavery helped create modern-day policing. Let's take it back to 1619, when a group of several hundred Africans were kidnapped from their village, forced onto a Portuguese ship, only to be stolen by English pirates at sea. After a voyage full of horror and death, what's referred to as some 20 and odd Negroes arrived in the New World and were sold in a place now known as Virginia. Yes, enslaved Africans were in the New World before your beloved. These few Africans survived the perils of the transatlantic slave trade, which had been underway since the 1500s in the Western Hemisphere. During the slave trade, Africans were captured and forcibly brought to the Americas in ginormous numbers. Historians say that from 1526 to 1867, something like 12.5 million enslaved people were stolen from Africa and journeyed to the Americas. Only about 11 million arrived alive. Back to 1619. Those who did survive the horrors of the slave trade and were brought to what would become the U.S. were also subjected to the first form of organized policing in the South, known as the Slave Patrol. In case you missed it, the Slave Patrol and slave catchers were the first form of organized police in the South. These watching as white folks first emerged in the colony of Carolina in the early 1700s and set the tone for policing as we know it. The Slave Patrol kept tabs on the whereabouts of the enslaved, and that meant if black men and women were off the plantation, then the Slave Patrol could demand to see a slave badge noting their occupation. Slave Patrol could stop and search whomever's belongings just because. Now, I wonder who that sounds like. Then there was the slave catchers. That role is pretty self-explanatory. Slave catchers chased and returned runaways. They also intentionally scared the bejesus out of the enslaved to instill a sense of fear and prevent revolts. There was some overlap between the role of the slave catcher and the slave patrol, but together they enforced the idea that black people were second-class citizens and that white people were the authority. And organized police departments, they enforced this racial hierarchy too. In South Carolina, for example, by 1837, there were dozens of officers in the Charleston Police Department whose jobs were essentially to monitor the enslaved. And though slavery was abolished after the Civil War, the spirit of tracking and policing black folks lived on. During the Reconstruction era, black codes were enacted with real quickness, and they restricted how black folks could live their lives. David A. Harris is a law professor at the University of Pittsburgh. Harris specializes in law enforcement and race, so y'all know we're going to have a lot to talk about. How did black people's relationship with law enforcement change after emancipation?
Law enforcement often was cast in the role of enforcing Jim Crow laws and other laws aimed at maintaining the racial caste system and at keeping black people, quote, in their place. So law enforcement, to the extent it existed, would be one thing for white people and another entirely for black people. It was aimed at maintaining the racial separation that existed in their system of race privilege for whites and second-class at best citizenship for blacks. And this only existed in the South. There were certainly law enforcement efforts that did the same thing in northern city towns.
But in the South, the system of racism wasn't just upheld by law enforcement. Vigilante groups like the Ku Klux Klan played a massive role in terrorizing black communities with lynchings and other forms of violence.
But yeah, anyway, that's the police forcing. Like she ran through a bunch of stuff. I didn't know if you could hear it while you were out the room, but
I remember Melvin Beasley. Back, you know Melvin.
Yep.
Back when we were little kids climbing trees and doing all that stuff, I remember when the sun started to go down, he would tell me, I got to go home.
Yep.
They're going to get me. And I was like, what do you mean they're going to get you? It's like, they're going to come get me, the Ku Klux Klan. And obviously me at 8 years old, I was like, I'm looking around like there's no one here. Like no one's coming to get you.
But at that age, that fear was already instilled in him. And Melvin was around us.
And him.
Yeah.
And how fucked up is that? That I looked around and was like, there's no one coming for you, dude. Like we're just playing. We're in the woods. We're sliding down trees. We're injuring ourselves. You know, how like that to me.
If I tell you, when I tell my dad things like that,
that's the most fucked up thing to me. It's like, yo, this was my friend, and we're playing. We're climbing trees. And he says when the sun goes down, he has to go home because somebody's going to come out of the woods and kill him.
Then living with that kind of fear, the trauma associated with that. That's why I say it's a very real thing. And imagine the kid that grew up with his parents telling him his whole life that he's more better and more dominant. He gets in class and has to compete. And he comes to the realization that, no, I'm just as equal as everybody else. I have to work just as hard as everybody else. So now that trauma is going the other way. Like we both, like you said, that trauma is real, and it's all associated with the same demon, the same negativity, the same issue. And like I said, it's a moral thing. It's a moral judge. It's a moral compass. I can't understand it. I don't care how much history I read. There is no point in time where I could have taken another human. I can't take a fucking dog, pardon my expression. And I can't take an animal that's, you know what I mean, completely outside of myself. I feel bad about stepping on ants. Now, not to say I didn't live
These
rowdy
days,
and I won't
even gnats, dude. Even gnats these days. I'm like, can you just get off me? Like, I don't want to kill you. Just get off me.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I feel, and that's pretty much like it's one of those. So I can't see at any point in history, I don't care how many years you take me back, that I could have gazed on another human. You know what I mean? It's like, so I can't. I'm lost in translation as of how we even got in that state. You know what I mean? How we were capable of doing that. Not completely lost, because I have a theory associated with what happened in Europe and why the vegetarian was subjugated. But it would be associated with my ideal on food being the foundation of it all. The lack of minerals creates psychosis. Oh, you want it on your head? Bye-bye. Lack of minerals creates psychosis. So, and this is science that I've gathered on my nutrition studies. So if you're lacking in selenium in your diet, if you're lacking in mercury in your diet, these things make you crazy. So I feel like also with pit bulls. Remember back in the days with pit bulls, what you do to turn on a pit bull? Huh? What you do to turn on a pit bull, a brand new pit bull? You feed them raw meat, and it helps make them violent. So you're dealing with the meat eater and his nature for his propensity to kill. The man who ended up in the harshest climate was forced to a meat diet. Find me a vegetarian serial killer. I've been hunting for him for 6 years. Find me one vegan serial killer.
I don't think I've heard of one.
Now, Hitler was a vegetarian. No, it's said to have been a vegetarian, but that's completely towards. But I'm talking about somebody on a running around, slaughtering folks. Not to say that a vegetarian hasn't killed multiple people, but serial killer wise, that just kill for the sake of killing type deal, I can't find it. And that associates with my theory on meat making people violent. Now, if you take that violence that comes with that meat diet and you add a lack of minerals and a lack of selenium, post-ice age, ice melts, water washes away minerals. So the plants and the vegetation that was present wasn't capable of creating. So you have this warlike culture in the north that developed. And the people who were on full balanced diets, building pyramids and all this extra stuff going on in the Mayans that had that were living in a different life, but the meat eater spends his life in the hunt of the vegetarian. So it's like that dynamic. The meat eating bird will prey on the vegetarian bird. You get what I'm saying? And we're connected to that same stratosphere. I don't think that all men are supposed to eat the same food, and that helps to perpetuate it. But in the grand scheme of things, what I'm saying is that the food and the things that the meat and the diet of the European and the lack of mercury and the things like that is why this warlike culture was perpetuated in the harshness of the environment. But we're far beyond that now. We're claiming to be civilized and we have to act like it. My issue with America, I guess in general right now, is in my opinion, the European is having a problem sticking to the contract of the Constitution. And that we look at every contract that they signed with Native people, it has been broken or pushed.
What is that contract?
What the treaties are? The contract is the Constitution. That's one that we're fighting, that we've been fighting with for quite a long time, to uphold it and live truly by the Constitution and the dictates thereof. And the other ones, it's like
what would you like the average everyday European to live up to?
That's a hard one. I think that first we have to root
That should be the easiest one of all time because
well, live up to the Constitution. Live up to the Constitution in America.
Meaning what?
Well, what the Constitution states: the freedoms for all,
What
justice
do you
and
want,
equality
what
for
do you
all.
Want? Okay, what does that mean for the white man? We're having a conversation here, you and I.
I don't know.
And-
Well, to a degree, that would mean first sourcing out, first recognizing that racism is a problem. That this sticking together mentality, that race don't exist. We all come from the same foundation. We are all present and accounted for from the first established movement. You know what I mean? That would be the first thing, is that we have to understand that the ideal that we're different because of color, or that one is better than the other, is absolutely towards. It's ridiculous. Excuse me. I think that we have to start sorting out our house. We have to clean house. We have to remove that portion of history, not necessarily history. It should be present, but it should be told in the right light. It shouldn't be glorified.
Maybe put certain things in a museum.
Yes, but I mean, the glorification of that type of behavior says something.
But first things first. What is the main objective?
The main objective from ground level is to remove racism from the system, from the government. Stop. The race has to be even. If we're going to save freedom, justice, and equality, then we have to live freedom, justice, and equality. And I haven't seen freedom, justice, and equality.
I can get behind that.
Yeah, and I haven't seen freedom, justice, and equality in America since that Constitution was written. But if you look at the history of treaties that have been violated, because I'm negotiating with somebody that doesn't need anything from me.
Me?
No, not you. No, I'm saying like when I say me, I mean like from an African perspective, negotiating with the system. I always put myself inside of it, so you have to excuse me. But me negotiating with the system is that abusive relationship we was just talking about, because I have nothing I don't need you. I mean, you don't need me. I need you, and I'm trying to negotiate. I have no grounds for negotiation.
The place that we want to get to is the point that where you don't need me. That's the place we want to be. The place where you
independence
don't need me. And
no, not where I don't need you, but where the people don't need the system, or the people don't need the government. The government is there and it helps, but it's not they shouldn't have to govern us in this way. We shouldn't be at each other's throats like this. It's the conditions that they created that have us needing this much policing.
Eddie,
you get what I'm saying?
Eddie, the beautiful part is that you and I are not at each other's throats.
Yeah.
What we're doing, we're trying to teach the young people.
Yes, everyone.
And if even one person listens, it's worth it.
Absolutely.
If even one person listens,
and it helps. Yeah, exactly.
In fact, last week somebody came at me about some boy band stuff, and they were like, we're the boy band. Why are you being uppity? I'm like, I'm not being uppity. I was in a boy band, signed Michael Jackson and Madonna and this other. Yeah, but what about if this person thinks that you guys are cool? Like, well, if he thinks we're cool, that's awesome. Whatever. But I really, truly don't care. It doesn't matter to me. That doesn't matter to me. If that helps him have a good day, great. But that was a part of my life that was 20 years ago. If that helps them have a good day, awesome, right? Mm-hmm. People try to put things on people that shouldn't be placed on them. So, like, as far as you go, as far as I go, people like this has now gone on for almost 3 hours. I guarantee you somebody's going to come on here and say, well, Tommy's stupid because of this, and this. Mm-hmm. Oh, and Eddie's stupid because of this, and this. And that's fine. Let people have their things. But if Eddie, if you and I can create peace in someone's mind, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people's minds out of our 3-hour conversation, for me, that's pretty awesome. And guess what? This video will live for all time on YouTube.
Yeah, that's why I say I think you should take it down, chop and screw it, and hit the hard points, the parts that you leave the stretched out version, but take one, because people's attention spans where you could hit your key points and edit it and make it like boom, 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 boom. So that, because to me, like I said, some people aren't going to listen to us talk about our childhood, and they just want to hear the meat. Give them the meat.
No.
Pause.
No, I'm not doing that.
Okay. You have to say they have to go through it all to get the jewels themselves. So.
It's not that hard. It's 3 hours.
Yeah.
Listen to it.
Yeah, most people are still on confinement. But what do you think about this coronavirus? What do you think about this lockdown situation and Fauci and the boys, Fauci and Gates and this movement?
What are my thoughts about that?
Yeah, mass vaccination.
Well, I've been subject to having to wear a mask when I go out, and that's fine. I get it. It's not about me. It's about protecting people that are vulnerable. And when I see people posting about, freedom, fuck you guys, I'm going out with a mask and I don't want a mask, it's freedom. No, it's not about you. It's about the older people. It's about people that have parents, grandparents. It's about respect for people that might be vulnerable to what's happening right now. It would be awesome, if I could go to Vegas tomorrow. Fucking fun as shit. I would love it. But that's not going to make the world better. That's not going to make it okay.
So,
not like that. That's not part of the plan. No. Let's squash this crap. Squash it down. And then once it's at a reasonable level, then we can change the narrative. But right now, you need to protect people. And if you're not willing to do that, then you're kind of a dick.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mom.
Max vaccination. So like not wanting to protect people, then you're a dick. Not wanting to wear a mask under the circumstances and things like that. I get it. I understand that part. But as far as mass vaccination, so the solution to this is to vaccinate everyone and then allow them to come back amongst each other, or stay separate long enough for group immunity to kick in place. What is you get what I'm saying? What's I can understand this. It's unsustainable. Like you say, we can't all keep walking around wearing masks. Vegas can't stay closed forever.
Well, Eddie, I saw something where they were saying, well, Black people have to be tested in order for it to be a proper test. And so many people posted posts on Facebook, on Instagram, calling it racist. Like, it's racist. They want Black people to test themselves, and it's just weird because I'm literally reading a headline. It's like, they just like everyone has to be tested in order for it to have a standard testing ratio, right? I mean, that's just. I mean, you have to have this amount of white people, brown people, Black people, yellow. I mean, if we're going to call it colors,
Yeah.
No, you have to have a cross section of every fucking race if it's going to be effective. And so
Mhm.
so stupid when people are like, oh, it's racist. They want black people to be involved. Like, what?
You have to think that the Tuskegee experiments and all
I
these different medical. So I
really,
feel it's
I get
crazy.
it. I get it. I get it. But
So
that's not this. This is like it has to be everyone and black people, not
yeah.
not just black people.
Yes, and we're not gonna start it off this time. But my thought process is the testing portion. The testing portion. My thing was the vaccination. Do you think that we need mass vaccination? No. Not that we need it. Do you think that mass vaccination is going to solve this problem? It's going to get rid of coronavirus.
Mass vaccination, just everybody.
This is what they want. They want every single human on the planet to get vaccinated, to get this vaccination for this coronavirus. This is the objective. This is what Bill Gates and Fauci's the WHO. This is what the WHO want to do. And they've said it on live television. So I'm asking you.
Um,
because I'm going to tell you black people's perspective on it. Because you know what I mean? It's hard to do it without getting an idea of where you sit.
No, it's okay. I'll give you where I sit. I don't feel like I trust the vaccination 100%. I also don't feel that the narrative that's been put out there is 100% on point.
Yeah.
That said, and this is probably gonna have a lot of people hate me for saying this, but and maybe could be my downfall, but I believe that there are things in motion that aren't in the best interest of the majority of the United States citizens. I'll say that.
Yes. Absolutely.
I'll say that.
And from my perspective, I would have to look at our history on vaccinating something associated with flu. Our ability to vaccinate a virus, to me, we like this. We like this. When you look at the numbers and you look at the statistics, if you just take the flu, for instance, this is a forever thing. So for all these 100 years and thousands of years that vaccines didn't exist, yeah, you had big diseases that showed up and killed a bunch of Indians, smallpox and polio. But since polio, we don't even have the research to verify if the polio vaccination worked or was it natural, or is it natural immunity being developed? But the vaccine is a forever thing. You have to vaccinate, and you have to continue to vaccinate according to how the flu is, and it'll change strain, and then we have to vaccinate against that strain, and it'll adjust itself, it'll change and modify itself. My thought process is we can't vaccinate. Vaccination is not going to solve our problem. Our issue is cultural bad eating habits that weaken our immune system.
Yes.
So for me, for these rich people who sell you sugar, who own in stock in sugar companies and own stock and things that are counterproductive to your nutrition, it's like, okay, you heard the story of the Arctic hunters. Arctic hunter, they used to put the handle of a blade in the ice and leave the blade protruding, and they would put blood on the blade. and a wolf would come along and smell the blood, and he licks the blade, but he doesn't know what a blade is. So he licks the blade and he cuts his tongue, and he really thinks he's having a drink, and he continues to eat until he kills himself, drinking his own blood. And this is the story of an Arctic hunter. This is what they used to do. Now, do you blame the hunter who put the handle in the ice, or you blame the wolf for acting on his natural responses? So they morally take a side seat to what's going on. So they put the sugar there and make it available to you for you to kill yourself. So now it's a delicious suicide. So if I ate myself to death, that's essentially suicide. If I know better, if I know what I'm eating is killing me, and I know every time I pick up a soda that is killing me, I know every time that I pick up something that's unhealthy for me that is killing me. But my son asked me about it the other day, and I was just like, he was like, why do people, put themselves in those types of situations? And I had to tell a 7-year-old that they allow, why are the products available to me? Why is tobacco available if it's killing this many people? Why is this? But crack cocaine is not, and this is not, and marijuana is not, but sugar is, and this is, and that is. These things, these issues that are counterproductive to our health, why are they still possible? Why are we not taking a hit at that? It's because people don't. It's not systematically beneficial for everybody to live to be 150.
Okay.
And in America, that same thing, they said it themselves a few years ago. If the numbers don't shift up, white people will be a majority or will be a minority in America. This is why Trump talking about putting the border up and stopping people from migrating from South America. So an immigrant gonna tell me that I'm gonna put up a wall to stop South Americans from getting into North America, and it's all American. And you're an immigrant yourself. You know what I mean? Like this, I think we're disillusioned, and I think when it comes down to them treating us from a vaccination perspective, they'd have to show us sheer data that it's been successful, that it's fully been helpful. But I am not letting any doctor stick a needle in me or any of my children because I do not trust the hospice. Do you understand like the hospital and the birth canal, and that hospice is shipping talk? That's shipping language. The birth canal. Birth is docking a ship onto a coast or into a bay. Well, it's a hospice. Hospice. This is what do they call the law? What is sea law? What do they call sea law? Is it mercy? I forget what it's called, but it's a maritime law. Maritime law. You know what I mean? Like you can find your birth certificate. Once you birth and you sign that birth certificate, you're signing the product. You're signing the product over to the place where it docked. And I can go look at my social security number on file, and I'm traded on the stock market. It's on the stock market. You have a stock market value, and it's these concepts and these, huh?
Are you there on the stock market? Am I there on the stock market?
I don't know if we are as adults. I know that you are. That's social security number lined up. Yeah. Once your birth certificate is signed, you're signed yourself over. That's why you are now.
It's okay.
Mama's not gonna let you play it if she told you no. It's guitars right there. You can play it if you want.
What if the bit for it?
Would I get the bit for it?
Yeah.
Okay, you want the hold on, let me get him the pick for his guitar. Where is the pick?
Pick.
Yeah,
And sometimes
be gentle now, not too rough. Yeah, he loves music.
That's great. Daddy.
Huh? You want to take the guitar downstairs?
Yeah.
Ask mommy to come get it, please. Yeah, I don't mind you taking it down. Daddy said it's okay. but he can't carry it. He's too small. Matter of fact, let me take it down. But like I said, I'm pretty sure we're wrapping up.
Yeah, Eddie, we've wrapped this over and over.
Yeah.
Bottom line is this: you and I grew up together, loving each other. Like I love nothing more than feeling your arm embrace me in a hug. Be like, hey man, that was a great, move right there, swimming through the stream. Hitting the 3-point shot, like, yo, awesome job. But also, just doing something like, yeah, man, you toss that rock over near the the car tire, some stupid shit. Like it wasn't about being great. It wasn't about being awesome. It was about being you.
Yeah.
About being me.
What
And
the people did the
I see that's what you're teaching your children. And that's amazing.
What
So
the people did the top?
You want to pick for the guitar?
give
You had it. I didn't take
give
it.
give him a high five for me.
High five for Tommy.
Uncle Tommy gives him a high
But they can't
five.
wind it.
You can't find it. I didn't lose it. You lost it. You find it.
I will
You lost it. I didn't have it. You lost it. You find it. Where'd you go? Go find it.
I can't do wind
Well,
it.
Daddy will have to buy another one. Daddy will buy another one. No worries. No
Mom, we
worries.
did a both by one.
You can hear the British accent already. Both buy one. Yeah, Mama buy one. Baba buy one. But yes, I mean, and I want to say, bro, I'm proud of you. I'm very proud of you. The man that you've become. I mean, from where we were, and the options to become anything. You know what I mean? And you managed to survive despite receiving racism from the black side. You know what I mean? And being discriminated. I would not necessarily call it racism, but discriminated against by black people, and still being able to accept love in the same way that I have been discriminated against white people. I've been discriminated against from black people as well, because I'm articulate and I speak well. When I got to South Carolina, if I couldn't fight, oh boy, I was gonna have some issues. You know what I mean? Like I said, I was for a while. I think our first 6 months to a year in Sumter, I was called a zebra because I spoke like white boy. I talked like a white boy. Even Valerie Monroe's dad, Rick, no hatred involved, but he used to call me white boy. What's up, white boy? You know what I mean? Because that's how much there was no color line for me. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's how much, but I received it from both sides. And Rick didn't mean nothing harmful by it. That was his way of saying, yo, I love you. Like, you know what I mean? But it's just that, you know what I mean? Like, I was family. And that concept of, because I speak well, I sounded white. And until I think I was 15 before I responded with the first thing. Like, you know what I mean? Unless you speak Swahili, you sound like a white boy too.
But the cool thing is, Eddie, the cool thing is all these people are going to be gone in about 20 years.
But these people who are passing these stories.
And I'm not saying like I wish them ill. I don't. But all of their racist ass fucking feelings can pass the fuck on with them.
Yes.
So,
absolutely. And that's what I know. And this is what I tell these guys out here. I say, I'm looking at y'all young boys. I'm looking at the new future. And the funny thing about this is they talk junk about us. They talk junk about Generation X, Tommy. The 80s babies. We were not political enough. We weren't activists. They didn't know what we were gonna do. Whoa, they're not concerned with pushing the narrative and moving the cause forward and all these different things.
We just hung out and loved each other. That's what we did.
But right now it's the 80s babies and our babies that are in the streets. Who's in the streets right now protesting these injustices? People between 45 and 16. So the ones who had babies early, the cats that's just a little bit older than us, but people born from about 75 on up. are the ones present and accounted for amidst this injustice. So it's us and our children, and that's the beautiful thing about it. That's what I'm trying to help us to realize, that generation that was before us, that older, our parents, when they had it all, they're still squeezing and trying not to let go and trying to convince us that, hey, we had it figured out. Don't love them. Put this hate between you. And now we're standing up and we're pushing in another direction. And I love it. I love to see the unity. And this is the thing about America right now. They're trying to make it look like we're divided. But I see amidst those riots, when I look at the civil rights movement, you've seen a lot less white folks, a lot less involved in the marching and the protesting, but we are all present and accounted for on the front line right now.
Now, Eddie, who were the kids saying that the people our age weren't doing the right thing? Who were those
No,
kids?
it was when we were older. Remember when we were growing up and they used to talk about us on
No, I just want to step up and be like, yo, I'm right here.
Oh, you said the people who were talking about, what you mean?
Yeah. No, I got the kids that were saying that you and I aren't on point right now. We're saying.
Oh, I mean, like
Who are those kids?
I mean, there's no specifics. I mean, systematically.
We can talk, kids.
Yes.
We can talk.
And that's the same thing that that's the same thing I've been screaming. And that's
we can
us,
talk.
Us being together and us being able to
Don't
hold
get it
dialogue.
twisted, little kids.
Yeah. Because I'm not too far removed. That's what I keep telling people. These conversations, these people that have that hate, like I said, I'm prepared to deal with the hate, whether it comes with a fight, whether it comes with a war. If we could stand and at least dialogue and have the conversation, I feel like we have to move forward. I don't feel like I feel like revolution has never come without fight. Revolution has never come, and we're at the brink of a revolution.
But the stupid shouldn't come from the learning side. The stupid should be taken away from the losing side. That's the problem. Think about that before you answer. Think about that.
The stupid should be taken away from the losing side. Like, we'd have to define the losing side.
The losing side right now is clearly the side that's been oppressed.
Yes.
So take the stupid away from that, and take the stupid away from the fucking idiots that are oppressing,
and we will be in a peaceful place.
And we'll be fine. But if people step up and try to talk shit, like, yo, why you standing up, old man? What you doing? You're fucking, what, 40 years old? 39?
Getting there, baby. Yes, sir.
You're not an old man. You're standing up. You're standing up for the rights of your people.
Yeah.
I'm standing up for the rights of your people, for the rights of all people.
There you go.
Motherfuckers need to stand up.
Yes, and that's it.
And shut the fuck up if you don't know what you're talking about. Sit the fuck down.
Yep, stand up.
Bottom
point
line.
them out. Point them out, and we'll deal with them. And that's the
Bottom
world
line.
to deal with them. But it's the secrecy. It's the people who allow people to
Shouldn't be
practice
the
these
secret.
things and get away with this type of stuff behind closed doors.
What? To practice what?
To
Call it
practice
out, baby.
to
Call it
practice oppression, to practice racism. It's a practice. You have to practice to be a racist. It's not something that just happens. You have to practice. It's taught.
It has to be practiced. That practice will not be practiced very much longer.
Yes, and like I said, we have to start at the bottom, and we have to start with the sheets, and then we got to move to the rings because it's that far embedded in us. But
It's happening right now.
Yeah, and that's the beautiful part about it. And like I said, we're exposing it. Racism is dying, and it's going to kick back. It's going to fight back. It's going to try to reestablish itself, and that's what these hanging bodies are all about. And that's what this thing is, because eventually there's going to be an answer to those bodies. They're only going to be able to hang so many men before somebody does something.
I hate it so much.
And so do I. And that's, I keep telling my mission. She says it's horrible, but I told her that if despite the fact that I'm across the water, if it gets ugly at home and my people need me, I'm coming.
Yeah, but what does that mean? You're gonna come for me?
No. It's not. My fight has never been a complexional fight. My fight has always been against the oppression. I know in my heart that white people, yes, in my heart that it's not a race thing. This is a smokescreen.
But overall, do they know?
No, but I think they created the smokescreen. Like, I think overall, like in the grand scheme of things, I have
Who's
been
gonna die? The fucking white and black middle income earners. Those are the ones pitted against each other.
exactly, and the poor.
And the top 1% wins.
Yep, and they all seem to be wearing the same badge of honor.
Don't let that happen.
No, it's not. But I'm saying that this is if
You almost went there just now.
no, if revolution happens at home, not on a violent level, but I'm saying if there is organization
But
against
that's where
oppression,
it's going, dude.
yes, but if it gets to that, then I have to be present and accounted for. I mean, and it's one of those. It's
What do I do?
When the line in the sand is drawn, I'm picking the side of whoever's right. It's not a white black thing, and I don't think it will ever be a white black thing. There will be a line drawn in the sand, and
If their voice is heard, it will be.
but I don't think it's going to be a color war. Like you said, it's one of those. It would be the most stupid thing on the planet
Nope.
to
Smart-
take.
Smartest thing on the planet for them.
If we were to get into a race war, it would be the dumbest thing on the planet from a poverty-stricken and a lower income position for us to go to war and kill massive numbers of each other based on a racist ideology that they created in the first place.
Yeah.
The only way that we're going to truly rise out of this is to see that it's not race that's the problem, it's systematic oppression, because everybody would have a piece if the people at the top weren't sitting on and hoarding so much. And it's as simple as that. And now they're sitting up there and hoarding everything when we could be in a developmental stage. We could be back into an Aquarian culture, but we're still living in this war culture. Like we haven't come to realize that all humans are important. The world is alive and breathing, and we need to sustain it and keep it healthy, despite who that means not promoting, who that means not pushing. We cannot continue to dig oil for wars. We cannot continue to grow, to have a nuclear arms race. We cannot continue any of these things. And when I look upon these things in position, these aren't things that have been allowed to been had by Africa. Africa, other than the Middle East up north, we ain't sitting on no weapons of mass destruction. You know what I mean? We are not equipped for war in the same way that other individuals are necessarily are. We are prepared to die for what we believe in, but that's not necessarily the answer. Economic suppression of these big businesses that have gone there. But if it gets thick, I have to be on the front line. I'm not going to let people I care about go out there and put their lives at risk. And I'm a mental organizer. I cannot let my cousins fight to free themselves from an oppression that my father saw and not come home to help. And I'm not coming home to kill. I'm not coming home to fight. I'm not coming home to be on the black side of some racial conflict. But I will come home to be on the side of right, truth, justice, and equality.
And
Truth,
Eddie,
justice, and equality. I'm for it.
at this point, you and I are on the side of that. Right?
Yeah.
Justice, equality. We also are probably targets to some degree.
Oh, after this conversation, I have never released any of this type of conversation that I'm speaking to you right now on a platform. I talk a little junk. I send my little posts out, but I have never got on a live video and expressed my mindset. Now, I know how to upset supremacy. With that being said, as an African male living in America, if I was to want to take a non-violent slap at supremacy and what it's doing to our people, I would get rid of monogamy amongst the Black communities. Men under wartime situations in every country where their numbers have been depleted have taken on multiple wives to populate. So You get rid of the monogamy and you start populating. If it's not about killing off black people as a whole and in general, let's get the numbers up, because we've lost a lot in the last 1,000 years. Hundreds of millions. And that would be counter to the brutality and the death and the imprisonment. That is the smaller, like the primitive, primitive thought, as in populating the planet and the global scale of things. That is what I would see as what anyone would do that was under the threat of genetic annihilation. You know what I mean? Like, but from a country's perspective, from inside a country where the diversity and people love every color and every complexion, if we want the love of every color and every complexion to live, we have to kill the ideal that one of those is greater, better, or more involved, or more, or should be in a better position than the other. And it's just, to me, to say that, well, my great grandfather decided that the cost of his soul or the cost of this negative activity we weren't going to have to atone for it when he died, so he took the L to pass on this legacy, but he didn't pass on none of the strife, none of the struggle, none of the debt. It's hard for me to conceive. And I think that once you open the door to giving African Americans reparations, the problem is you then open the door for those folks up on them plantations, on them reservations. It opens the door for them to also ask for some type of reparations. And regardless of what we say, there is no way that Europe can repay what they took from them.
Okay, so I was about to make a joke, like going back to our childhood, like, listen, Pac, yeah. Shit like that. But
I think it's the energy more than just the visual. I think we might be same tribe. We might have the same.
You and I maybe, but no. After hearing that, yeah, I mean, dude, Indians got paid. Why shouldn't certain African Americans be paid? Why shouldn't?
Well, they got at least given those sections of land and things like that. But that's the same thing that we all needed. You know what I mean? They got those sections and those reservations. But what did black people get? And we've been right beside for every war, every drama, you know what I mean? Everything that was accomplished. We was here from the beginning. Like I said, look at the 1800s when the white was actually officially created, and look at how they separated us and what they did to us, man. It's hard, man. It's hard for me to
How does one map that out?
What in particular? How does one map out the slavery?
The earned land.
Oh, mapped out who should have what, or how to diversify the land?
Yeah, because I have lots of family in the South. I haven't had a single parcel of land passed down to me.
My thought process is we should take the land ownership out of everybody's hands. How about that? How about that's the reparations? You don't own it. I don't own it. Can't nobody pass it on. God put it here. If it's not being used for the greater good of everyone,
first one to grab it gets it.
No, hell no. That's the wrong. That's you trying to start a war. I'm not saying the first one to grab it gets it. I'm talking about governments say, hey, listen, okay, all the land is ours now, but not the governments we have now. Listen, but we're going to itemize and actually run ourselves as a self-sustaining mechanism. We are going to allow people to populate and move freely. Natural selection, we're gonna open that back up. We're gonna stop suppressing what is naturally supposed to be happening anyway. We're going against the grain. How can I own something that was here when I got here? How can we don't own it? It's a game, Tommy. It's a game. You get what I'm saying? That's to me. It's only because I'm finding it hard to just sit in the reality I've been dealt.
But okay. So what's the answer?
The answer, like I said, the answer is there's no easy answer. There's no we've talked for 3 hours and we don't have an answer. But I think that
Almost
first
4 hours, by the way.
yeah, the first step and
Amazing.
the first answer is to start becoming independent and self-sustained. The government, we are so evolved as humans, we could be modifying the globe in a way to create more balance, more life. We could be modifying river systems to take water to people. We could be philanthropists instead of terrorists. And then we wouldn't have terrorism, we'd have gift givers. But our historical print is written in blood.
Why?
I don't know, but in order for us to get past that historical print and that written in blood, we have to come to terms with the fact
Have to
that
be.
I know it, but
That's silly.
it was written. It was written. I didn't write it. It was written, though, and we're now here. So either we are going to move ourselves to a place of harmony. That's what we want. We want the peace, like you said, out with the madness, in with the peace. And it's one thing to say, yeah, educate yourself, yeah, pull yourself up, yeah, everybody has the equal opportunity. But when you look at how crack cocaine got into the ghetto, when you look at redlining, when you look at these certain things that were put in place, when you look at the
A
destruction
lot of people were put
Wall
into
Street.
positions of a place that would be very hard to get out of.
Mhm.
Police can't step in right now and say, I'm sorry.
Mm-mm.
Who can do that?
There's no single individual that can step up and say they're sorry. But what we can start doing is the same way they used to hunt down the witches and the warlocks that were not keys to the society. We need to start hunting down these individuals who have these, understand that these groups sent people from these groups into these organizations. These hate group, these people who are pushing this, like I said, it's an education thing first. This is always where you want to start. This is why the dialogue is important, to educate people on both sides of the spectrum on the full picture. And once everybody's fully educated on the full picture, you know that they don't teach kids in England about the slave trade in school. They don't teach them about the inequalities and the massive what went on in America. My wife had no idea. I had to let her read a history of Howard Zinn. I mean, a People's History by Howard Zinn. I had to put her on to all, like, my library is substantial, but I have to educate people on that, on this side of the planet, so that they have so that they're not disconnected from what's going on. And like I said, I'm not for we could talk about free to land, free certain sections of the land. We could get into all kind of different concepts. But my thing, any land that was removed post Emancipation Proclamation from the hands of people, that there is documentation that they were ran out by a rebel force and that land was not paid for due unto those people should remove themselves.
Eddie?
But it's going to be hard to push in that direction, because if I can legally state that post Emancipation Proclamation, this land was in my family, this land belonged amongst us, this section of this belonged us to us, we were allowed to be ran off by Klan rebels and vagrants, and the system and the government did not come in and do anything for us, and then the system allowed these people to move, the government allowed these people to move there. I don't hold individuals accountable. I don't hold individual white people accountable. I hold the institution of America accountable.
I'm listening to you.
But it's hard to have that conversation and say that, hey, that was somebody else's. You know what I mean? And it was stolen unjustly after a law was passed. I don't care that it was 50 years ago, 70 years ago, or 90 years ago. They just put Bill Cosby in jail for some shit he did 40 years ago. So to me, that time scale and that statute of limitation has never been set. So it is not a reality. And that for me is at least start having that conversation of how we can.
I'm trying to have
you know,
Eddie.
Yeah, but go ahead. I'm sorry, but yeah, to me, that's we have to start moving at least in that direction. Let's start at the 50s and say, okay, from the 50s or from here, from this point, let's talk about it. Because to me, the institution owes. The institution owes, because the institution was built, established, and put in position, not just alone by black people and white people together, but the person who ended up with the majority of the pie at the end of the day wasn't an equal split. And it wasn't a fair split, and it was due to something that happened in the 1800s to change the dynamic of everything. If we all get to the root of that, then we'll understand why I feel like I feel like at some point we have to do something. It has to like to me, to give people freedom without an economic base just creates a cycle. It creates a cycle. And then to say, like I said, America has done a lot. Not to say that the welfare programs and the different things, but within them creating the welfare program, there was somebody in one of these groups that sat back and said, okay, let's send crack cocaine in there then. Explain to me how a rapper says gun and he gets in all kind of trouble, but they allowed to produce him and sell him. Smith & Wesson.
Explain to me why a rapper does that.
Well, says gun because he's surrounded.
Why?
Because he's surrounded by guns. But I'm saying that
the producer and rapper are surrounded by guns, making.
No, I'm saying that our culture, we're in a war culture. We're in a war culture.
So you got tons of black people supporting the culture that's putting the culture down.
No, you have tons.
Yes, you do.
Yes, you do from that perspective, but the culture has changed.
What other perspective is there?
The culture is gangster now. You got to understand that the evolution, when people fall into a state of evolution, also who sells the music that perpetuates this cycle. There's a lot of individuals. Like if you look at who really runs this rap shit, it's not the people who are spitting the bars. It's the people who are promoting and selling the bars, right? So if you're promoting and you're selling the bars, and
who's promoting and selling the bars?
Who I don't know. You have to look at the music business.
Just put it up. Well, you know what it is.
Well, the music business, it's a sticky situation. You know what I mean? But it's the elite.
You're naming names. Name them.
No, I mean it's Jimmy Iovine is running this rap shit.
Jimmy Iovine's been out of the fucking game for.
No, I'm saying like this is when you are that deep into something.
If you want to name names, name names.
Yes, I'm not. No, I didn't.
We're not here to fucking play fucking marbles.
Yeah, but see, we're
talking real talk.
It's not my place. It's not my place to name names. It is your
place.
But we know who runs the rap.
It is your place. I let you talk for the past fucking 4 minutes.
Yeah.
It is your place.
Yes, I know. But it's not my place. It's not my place to point fingers. Who owns the music industry? Who owns the distribution companies? It's not me. And it's not the rapper.
I didn't say it was.
And that's what I'm saying. So for me, it not being the rapper puts us in a power seat. So
is now right here, you're talking about the rap game, about the fucking music business for 4 or 5 minutes, and can't point a finger to a single motherfucker.
I did point a finger to a single motherfucker. We could point a finger to the major corporations. Like if we look at the corporations and follow the money, you'll see who gave Cash Money a multi-million-dollar distribution deal. Who did Russell Simmons work for when he started Def Jam? Who was his partner? These Leo Cohen and all these people that are at the heart of the music industry. You know what I mean? And like I said, I'm not taking shots at anybody in particular because this could ruin my possibility in going into the music industry. But I will say that the people at the bottom on the music industry that are spitting the bars are spitting what the people are saying they want. Now, there are plenty of artists when hip hop was first created that were pushed and promoted, that were talking conscious rap and all this stuff. And that is my original perspective. But I know that don't nobody know that the industry is not going to sell that. The Mos Defs, the Talib Kweli's, the Black Thoughts, the individuals who are talking upliftment and revolution and let's go, they're not getting multi-million-dollar distribution deals.
And they shouldn't. Should they?
Absolutely.
No, they're not delivering what they delivered before. It's not the same quality of music, of rhymes, of
It's the adjustment of the culture. It's the direction that the culture went.
Give me one example. One example. That's all I ask. One. Give me one example.
Okay, the direction that of what specifically? What example do you want?
You just said it should be accepted that they should get. Give me one example of one person that should be given a record deal that would have been acceptable last month.
That would have been acceptable last month. Not that would have been, that should have been given a record deal. But what I'm saying is that the culture of hip hop was spun by social engineering.
One example.
The one I gave you, the most deaths to Talib Kweli's, like at this point in this general time in the music sound.
I just asked for one, dude.
I did. I gave you most deaf, Talib Kweli. But then if we talking about present day hip hop,
you didn't give me any art. You gave me names.
I did. Joey Badass. It's so many people that to me.
Names. You didn't give me art. You give me names.
You asked for names.
No, I asked for art. Give me an example of art.
Give you an example of art. Art it promotes life. Art promotes life. So an example of art that promotes life, a solid album with a uplifting development. J. Cole. J. Cole is an artist. His last two albums both speak to all the injustices. They both speak to all the different natures, and it's an uplifting album overall. To me, art is something that contributes to society, that adds to a person's perspective, that adds to the beauty of the world.
Years ago, you're reaching back like years now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. But you have to understand that it takes that, and if you're gonna adjust to culture, you have to look at culture shifts and paradigm shifts and what happens to create these paradigm shifts. What happened in the hip hop game in the late 80s and in the early 90s when we moved into the gangster rap? Because if you look before the Rodney King riots happened, let me explain it this way. Before the Rodney King riots happened, we were Queen Latifah and Fight the Power, and we was dealing with Flavor Flav, and we were dealing with we could keep running through different artists in that era, but the general consensus amongst the music was Fight the Power. There was an era of hip hop that was in that time.
Yeah, of course.
Now, post that experience, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to look at what transitioned the industry into promoting the gangster. The industry started to promote the gangster. Was it that the people wanted the gangster, or was it that if I make you rich and I put you on a stage in front of people, they're going to want to be like you? You have to look at the fact that the perpetuation of a solid black family wasn't put out on television other than the Cosby Show. Like this is social engineering. This is steering. This is not like just stuff that's piling. So hip hop didn't get into the state it's in without certain things happening. And I'm not saying that it's all crooked and that every company is connected, but I'm saying that the over exaggeration and the overselling of the ideal of the thug and the gangster it didn't happen by itself. And I'm not saying that that the artist is less responsible than the owner. Okay. You get what I'm saying? I'm saying they're both just as responsible, and you have to hold yourself accountable. You get what I'm saying for what you're doing. You get what I'm saying? Now, the accountability on the lower level is the accountability and the things that tend to happen is you as a thug coming into hip hop, a lot of them die. The statistics are heavy, but from the higher level, them putting the music out like that, there's no recourse. There's no negative things that happen in the culture of these individuals who are selling it. Now, me being in the culture, spitting it, there's all this stuff going on around me that is detrimental. If we really wanted to steer, that's just like selling sugar, in my opinion. Yeah, I'll put the handle of the blade in the ice and we'll wait to see they gonna lick it. You get what I'm saying? We gonna lick the blade. If you take away from a man his ability to exercise his masculinity, no matter what man it is, if you take away the possibility for him to exercise his masculinity through earning, going to work, having the opportunity to win, and then you throw guns and drugs in the situation, you can guarantee a chemical combination, and 50 years later you can almost guarantee this outcome. But it's just all about whether or not we believe that humans can be steered in that way, if humans can be herded in that way, and everybody doesn't think so.
Who threw guns and drugs into it? Just curious.
I mean, when you look at what happened post civil rights movement, when there was togetherness amongst the African American population, what happened post? The same thing that happened to hip hop. There's catalysts that change things, and it's not always completely responsible to outside influence. But like I said, it's when you're at a point of negotiating from a level of I guess, or if you're speaking from a perspective of bias, it's hard to see that.
But how about from a level of somebody that came here to make a point, to make your point heard, and then now all this bullshit? It's like, come on, man.
What you mean? Like give it to me. Talk to me.
Why is there all of a sudden it's all about people with guns and shooting and trying to have their rights? Like, we've already talked about them. Like, push them out of the situation.
Yeah. So once we push them out of the situation, the move forward though is the dialogue. Like, us having the conversation and getting past it hasn't changed the realities that we live in. And that's the hard part. We can't just go out there tomorrow and be like, yep, the world is different now. You know what I mean? It's going to take tearing down those institutions and recognizing that these things steer, that we are engineered to be a certain way. We are educated to be a certain way. We are pushed in a certain direction because, like the media, I'll show you just how far with the diamond and the wedding ring. It was never a part of the marriage ceremony. But you can't ask a girl to marry you today without that ring. We fall into these belief systems because we were born into them, and we continue them onward and forward.
And that's too
yes, Boogie. Be quick, because I gotta go.
Eddie, you got your little kids. You gotta go do your thing. That's all good.
Since you haven't, we're supposed to be spending time together when we haven't at all. I wanted to know if I could go over and get him.
What does your mama think about it?
She said ask you.
Yeah, I'm fine with it if she's okay with
I'll
it.
close the door.
Yeah, but like I said, it's hard to when we get down to digesting it detail for detail. It's hard to hand out faults and blame and things like that. But when you look at the evolution of things, we have to consider all the factors. You have to include the psychological factors in place. You have to include the environmental stimuli. You have to include it all in the outcome of developing a culture.
I hear you, Eddie, and I hope that when I was growing up, I rubbed up against you the right way. Whether that meant that I was the weird white kid or the cool white kid or whatever it was, but I want you to know that I love you, man.
Oh man, I love you too, brother. And you didn't rub up against me the wrong way. It's forever, man. It's always going to be love. And like I said, we just when we have a difference in opinion or people have different perspectives on whatever the issue is, we can't allow it to draw wedges in between us. Let it send us to the dictionary. Let it send us back to the books to research, look, and then come back and say, hey, you were wrong. And in my opinion, if I find that something that I've said, it's been 4 hours of conversation. If somebody in the comments comes back and they says, hey, you're full of shit because of this, I'm not going to take it as well, I'm full of shit because of that. Okay, I'm going to say, okay, well, how am I full of shit? Show me, help me educate myself out of that ignorance. And that's the thing. But people have to be willing to speak their pieces and how they feel about their opinions so that we can dialogue.
Here's the thing. A lot of times people only see a podcast or see something that's online that's not accessible. Well, I want to make myself accessible. accessible. I'm Tommy Mac 79 on Twitter.
Daddy,
Instagram.
are we doing Harry's?
My
We doing
Yes,
Harry's?
Harry's coming over here. Mama's going to get him.
his
I'm going to do it. Where was outside too?
Eddie. Do you want to
I'm
share
going
your?
to move dinner.
Do you
Oh
wanna
yeah.
share your Instagram?
First,
It's fine.
number one ST Flex Cow is my Instagram. Flex Caliber at gmail.com.
Yeah.
Is how you can source out my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Also my Facebooks and things like that. That's that puts you in line on the Facebook and stuff like that. Like I'm out there.
And for everybody else asking, don't hit me up looking for his info. Don't look him up looking for my info. If you don't like what we said, comment or just keep it to yourself.
Yeah, I mean, well, I mean, if you want to jump on and like I said, I entertain all dialogue. We can have a global discussion. I'm open to anybody that wants to pop on live and revisit this conversation. Like only because in this time that we're in right now, whatever our issues are, if we can't talk, if nobody's prepared to stand on the other side and bare their face and bear their resemblance and have true and honest conversations about this conflict, we can't get ahead. We can't get anywhere. And that's
Eddie. I'm trying to put myself in the middle here. I'm trying to be, a middleman, trying to absorb some of the bullshit. But I appreciate you saying, yo, just hit me up directly. Whatever it takes.
So are there comments? Is there a lane or a stream? Is there anybody on the video that's already making is there any questions?
We'll see tomorrow.
Yeah, so
I mean, right now it's middle of the night on the East Coast.
Interactive wise, but yeah, like I said, coming through to get at me. Like I said, it's one of those. I've got I think a unique perspective, and like I said, I think it all leads back to the original. That's why all the issues for me go back to our violation of being in tune with nature, and that puts us where we are today.
That should never have been even an issue, and
yeah,
that's why I'm here, standing next to you, my man, my brother. I love you, brother. I love you, dude.
Always. I love you too, bro.
Eddie, you guys be safe across the pond. Have a nice British breakfast. Man, I would love a nice British breakfast. Some beans, some little Heinz beans.
I wish those days are all gone for me, brother.
What do you mean?
Yeah, man. Man, if I could eat a full British breakfast, on occasion I might have a bean, but I am moving myself away from as many laboratory products as I can. I don't eat breakfast. I haven't had anything except for blue vervain and some water this morning. It's 125. Blue vervain. It's a mineral. Blue vervain is the Vikings used to chew it. It's good for teeth health. It's good for anxiety, depression. It is a powerful plant. Blue vervain.
You chew your plant.
Well, no, I take it in a vitamin, in a mineral. It's a mineral, but I take it in a capsule. But yeah, I don't chew the stick. Actually,
I still love you, man. I miss you.
I love you too, bro.
Give my love to the family, and
I will do. The wife just walked in the room, so
God willing, we'll all have the same eyes one of these days.
Yes, we all have the same eyes now. Yeah.
Nothing but love for you, man.
Love you too, brother. Bless.
Please take care. So sad. Sad that has to happen.